the Interstellar Mecha cook. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 526 Climbing the Tower Barehanded. After the 9-story pagoda was completely stabilized, Zhang Jia returned to the arena and stood at the top of the tower. He took out hundreds of items from the armory and placed them on the top. Everyone raised their binoculars and saw that they were half-human tall Barbie dolls. Why dolls? Could the preliminary round be playing house with little girls? The audience automatically imagined hundreds of incongruous scenes, such as the contestants blowing snot bubbles and slurping saliva while fighting for the dolls. At this time, Zhang Jia also turned on the mecha's external speaker and spoke. Okay, our competition venue is ready. Now it's time to announce the rules of the competition. I believe you have seen the prizes I placed on the top of the tower. Yes, those are these big Barbie dolls, a total of 100. They are the key props for our preliminary round. Anyone who grabs a doll and returns to the ground will pass this competition. However, this competition is a little special. Instead of competing in mechas, our contestants will have to climb the 9-story pagoda. If you encounter an opponent during the competition, you can choose to avoid them or actively throw them off the tower. Of course, each contestant will be issued a disposable parachute, and security robots will be nearby to rescue anyone who falls. Also, since weapons are required for fighting during the climb, we will also give everyone an inflatable hammer. It is worth noting that both the parachute and the inflatable hammer are carried on your back. Be careful not to tear off the parachute when retrieving your weapon. It is your secret weapon for getting down the tower. The competition commentary finally concluded, and Lin Miaomiao felt as if 1,000 beasts were running wildly within her. Such a prize, such a competition format, must have been the brainchild of some idiot. Thinking of those burly male students clutching Barbie dolls, she was stunned. Since we have security robots, why do we need parachutes? Yuzixin questioned the intelligence of the competition's designers. Are they afraid the security robots might malfunction? Liu Kaoye rolled her eyes. Are you crazy, Ashen? They'll definitely check the security robots before the competition. Teacher Zhang only said no mechas and you have to climb up barehanded. How are you supposed to climb down holding a doll? That's where the parachutes come in handy. Anyone with a decent mind could figure this out quickly. So, when climbing the tower, they wouldn't just use inflatable hammers to knock people down. The parachutes on each competitor's backs would be coveted by the others. Yuzixin didn't argue. He reached out and touched his nose, saying awkwardly, I just didn't react for a moment. I was almost dying of laughter at Teacher Zhang. He must have been reading from a slip of paper again. Those words are meant for playful young people, but when he reads them out like that, it sounds really weird, don't you think? Lin Miaomiao and the others couldn't help but think about it. It seemed so true. Those witty words, once spoken by Teacher Zhang, sounded like a dead person. The sour feeling was truly worth a few chuckles. Zhang Jia had always been a stern and serious person. Reading those words from a slip of paper was the limit. After he finished, he didn't say anything more and simply called out, Start! All the participating students left the spectator seats. Since they couldn't use mechas, they had to take the elevator to the podium. As the students left the stage, Lin Miaomiao vaguely saw a few young girls blushing, looking like they wanted to cry but couldn't. Looking at their beautiful dresses, it was clear what was going on. While most of the girls in the mecha department are fierce, aggressive women who don't usually pay much attention to their appearance, there are still a few who love to dress up, especially since they're required to wear a uniform after joining the fleet. They'd love to have some fun wearing dresses while they can still wear them. After all, it doesn't matter what they wear when competing in a mecha. If the competition had been the same as in previous years, these girls wouldn't have been bothered and would have attracted a lot of attention. Unfortunately, this year the school had changed to tower climbing competition. The thought of them revealing themselves in dresses made Lin Miaomiao feel bad for them. Thankfully, Zhang Jia noticed the awkwardness of some of the girls and postponed the competition for a few minutes so they could change inside the mecha. Those with space distortion usually brought some clothes, shoes, and socks with them. So if they didn't, they could borrow a pair of pants from a classmate. The competition finally began. All the contestants stood around the bezel. Zhang Jia gave the order and they began to move. Some simply grabbed hold of the irregular protrusions on the wall and climbed upwards, fearing they would be left behind. Others, more cautious, stood on the ground, observing the movements and strength of their competitors to their left and right, waiting until they had all reached the arc of a level before moving. By this time, the contestants were at their peak, and the distance between them was very close. The more active ones had already begun to eliminate those who were not in the same class with inflatable hammers. Whether or not the people around them were classmates was irrelevant, there were no friends on the competition field. Tisk, that girl is really ruthless. She's hitting hard with a hammer, as if she has some deep grudge against that female classmate. Maybe she's trying to steal her boyfriend or something, Yuzixin marveled, holding up a telescope. After sighing, he couldn't help but complain. Using telescopes to watch a competition is too much trouble. Jinhao had given them each one when they entered the venue. At first, they were confused about what was going on, but only understood after the competition format was announced. Honestly, these binoculars were quite powerful. Looking at the podium through them, it felt like the competition venue was right before my eyes. I could clearly see the color of the players' clothes. It was just that the mount was too heavy to hold on my ear, and my hand felt sore from holding it. Lin Miaomiao only watched for a while at first, and now she's too lazy to even watch the competition. And it wasn't just her. With the exception of Yuzixin, almost everyone else had stopped watching. They were all chatting quietly with the people next to them or simply dozing off while sitting upright. Yuzixin talked for a long time but no one responded. When he turned around, he saw that everyone looked bored. He was immediately depressed. Why are you all like this? Don't forget why we came here. Instead of observing carefully, you are sitting and dozing off. Lin Miaomiao raised her eyes and glanced at him. And said coldly, Master, you has been observing for so long, have you seen any amazing talents? Or did you only see those beautiful female students fighting each other? Do you feel sorry for them or for the beautiful girl who was beaten? Don't talk nonsense. Yuzixin's face turned green. I'm such an honest person, how can I feel sorry for those beautiful girls? I only like Ocean, don't pretend. We all heard it clearly. Liu Kaoyu covered her mouth and giggled. Poor Ocean, not only has to guard against male rivals, but also female rivals. It's really hard to guard against. Zhu Chen's face turned green, and he snatched the binoculars from Yuzixin's hand. Don't look, it's useless to look now, let's wait for the next game. Chapter 527, Meet Old Friend Again. The bezel was too high, and they had to be wary of those around them trying to harm them. After a whole morning of climbing, they didn't get very far. Instead, many people lost their balance and fell off the tower, leaving the competition with red eyes. Many people understood the rules of the competition, just as Lin Miaomiao and the others had expected. Participants had already started grabbing each other's backpacks, and as they scrambled and dodged, many fell off the tower again. If this goes on, will we not be able to select 100 people who can enter the finals? Liu Kaoyu muttered, and then another question came to her mind. It seems that the competition will not end so soon. What about lunch? And those contestants, are they going to stay on the semicircular eaves forever? Feng Liken, who had been silent all the time, explained, there must be enough people. Those who fall down now are those with slower reaction abilities. After most of the contestants are eliminated, the distance between people will widen, and then it will be a test of physical strength and endurance. As for the lunch issue, Lin Miaomiao interjected, the competition actually chose this method. The school must have its own plans. I guess we can go back to the guest house for dinner later. As for those participating students, I'm afraid they will have to drink nutritional supplements up there. The facts were indeed as she predicted. At exactly 12 o'clock, Zhang Jia announced that the delegation members and the eliminated students would go out to eat, and those who were still on the tower could rest where they were or continue to climb up. Robots would distribute nutritional supplements later. The contestants who climbed up the semicircular eaves of each floor were fine, but those still clinging to the wall were practically cursing. How could they rest there? They had no choice but to keep climbing until they reached the eaves of the next floor. Those hanging on the wall had to continue climbing, and those who could rest couldn't sit still. Everyone else was working hard. If they didn't catch up, how could they grab the Barbie doll? They had no choice but to keep up. Of course, some of the female students were less physically fit than the male students. They were exhausted after climbing all morning. When they heard that they could rest, they naturally sat down to recover. Some were hungry but didn't want to wait for the school to distribute nutritional supplements, so they pulled snacks from the space button and began to nibble on them. For a moment, the sound of snacks being gnawed echoed on the bezel. Zhang Jia, the host, didn't go to lunch with the other contestants. Instead, he waited for the robot to distribute the nutritional supplements, just like the other contestants. Seeing the female contestants munching on snacks was a bit of a joke. While such unnutritious food might be okay for everyday consumption, using it to fill their stomachs during the competition was unwise, as it offered no nutritional or stamina. Simply reminding the other contestants seemed unfair to them. If he didn't, there wouldn't be many female contestants in the top 100 this year. After a moment's hesitation, Zhang Jia finally came up with an idea. He said to the female students who were happily eating snacks on the eaves, "Who told you to eat snacks on the basil? This pagoda will be used for a long time. If you eat here, what if the smell of the snacks gets on the pagoda and attracts rats and insects?" The girls were stunned. This was a basil made of stone. It could be put back after use. How could it attract rats and insects? Besides, stones are not afraid of rats, and there are no rats in school. It is impossible for mutant animals to appear in the city. In addition, the rodent control work is done well, and ordinary rats have become a rarity. Zhang Jia's reason does not make sense at all. Even he himself does not believe it, so who else would believe it? But he was just trying to make an excuse, unconcerned about whether anyone believed him or not. He didn't get angry when contradicted. He simply said sternly, "If I say yes, then yes. Put away your snacks immediately. You're not allowed to eat anything on the tower except the nutritional supplements." In school, teachers' orders were obeyed, and the female students, no matter how reluctant they were, had to put their snacks away. The male students, overhearing the noise, chuckled with glee. "What are you laughing at? Aren't you afraid you'll fall down from laughing yourself silly?" a more aggressive girl sarcastically retorted. "You just enjoy watching the fun. You're even more nagging than us girls." Perhaps it was the girl's overwhelming aura, or perhaps she had a knack for being a badass, but soon someone laughed so hard they lost their balance and fell off the tower. It was so sudden that they forgot to deploy the parachute, but luckily a security robot caught them. No one dared to laugh anymore. Those resting continued to rest, while those climbing continued, all assuming the appearance of a serious competition. Meanwhile, the nutritional supplement dispensing robot also arrived at the Basil Tower with its own supplies. Back on the other side, the representatives of each fleet, Lin Miaomiao and a few others followed a delegation of over 100 people into the restaurant of the guest house, found an empty table and sat down while waiting for their food to be served. Unexpectedly, they looked up and saw someone they knew. It was Shi Aoqian, who had also followed them. "Hey," the outspoken Liu Kaoyer shouted in surprise. "Why are you here too, you money grubber?" Shi Aoqian smiled and said, "Our fleet is only short of a few people. We don't need to recruit too many new recruits. There's no need to send veterans as representatives and affect their training. So we said we would send the new recruits who entered last year, and I just happen to be from this school." "Oh, which fleet are you from?" "The Azure Dragon Legion." "Right." Liu Kaoyer remembered that she seemed to have heard of it, but she hadn't been in touch for so long that she had forgotten. "It's King Long," Shi Aoqian didn't deny. "King Long's Longtang fleet." Liu Kaoyer was confused. "I remember King Long's fleet was called the Xijia fleet. Why is your fleet named differently? Is it an affiliated legion?" Each of the 5 major legions has a staff of 20 official fleets. If the required number is exceeded, the military will be held accountable. However, each star region requires numerous fleets, such as those on mineral and energy planets. The official fleets alone are simply insufficient, so someone proposed establishing an affiliated fleet. An affiliated fleet acts as a backup for each legion, deployed wherever defense is needed. However, since these fleets are mostly composed of second and third tier mecha divisions, they won't be deployed to the battlefield even in the event of a war, nor will they be sent out to eliminate alien beasts. As for why Liu Kaoyer immediately identified Longtang as an affiliated fleet, it was because the official fleets of the 5 major legions all share a unified name, making it clear that they belong to the same fleet. For example, King Long's Mengjia and Fanjia, Suzaku's Yuanfang and Chaofen. The only exception was the Central Core. They didn't use the same character in their names, but instead used names related to the 4 seasons, such as Shenyu, Rongzhu, and Jinghong. In fact, Lin Miaomiao always felt that the name of the fleet wasn't nice enough, It would be much better if it was called something like Shen Yulu Oyan Buxi Hua. Of course, she only dared to think about these thoughts in her heart. If others knew about it, she would inevitably be laughed at. However, she actually wanted to know whether Longteng was an affiliated corps. You know, the allowances and conditions of an affiliated corps are not as good as those of a formal organization. What was surprising was Shi Yaoqian's answer. He said, Longteng is not an affiliated corps, but a formal organization. It was promoted not long ago. Next month, it will be renamed Longjia. Chapter 528 I don't like your saliva. Doesn't each legion only have 20 spots for official fleets? Since they don't fight or do anything else, there shouldn't be a shortage of fleets, right? How did they suddenly upgrade? Yu Zixin was also surprised, staring at Shi Yaoqian eagerly, waiting to hear gossip. Shi Yaoqian groaned inwardly. He had wanted to meet up with old friends and say hello to Lin Miaomiao. After all, she was a girl he had liked for a long time, so he should at least ask how she was doing. But before he could say anything, he was interrupted by others. He wanted to avoid Yu Zixin and the other man's endless questioning, but he was afraid of hurting the relationship. After all, they had been classmates and friends for several years, so he pretended to be confused and said, I don't know much about these. We new recruits are busy training and don't have the time to inquire about these things. I just heard that the Fengjia fleet was disbanded, and the soldiers under it were dispersed to other fleets. Lin Miaomiao looked up in surprise. She thought that Luojia had finally collapsed, but she didn't expect that Fengjia was actually disbanded. This was too unexpected. Not only was she surprised, even the usually composed Zhu Chen and Feng Liken couldn't believe it. The Fengjia seem quite strong, right? They shouldn't be disbanded. Luojia always ranks second to last every year, and this year they're last. Shi Yaoqian curled his lips in disdain, saying, no matter how weak the official fleet is, it's still a bit stronger than the auxiliary fleet. Remember, when I first joined Longteng, I was only a third-level mecha master with little combat experience, yet I managed to make the top 10 otherwise, I wouldn't even be in the selection of conscription representatives this time. Lin Miaomiao thought about it and felt it made sense. Even battlefield scavengers like Shen Yu had been retained for so long without being eliminated, proving the saying, a lean camel is bigger than a horse. The robots in the guest house began serving the food, and the group paused from gossiping to focus on the food. They had to go to the arena to watch the competition that afternoon, so they had to eat well. If they got hungry mid-flight, snacks wouldn't be easy to come by, especially in uniform. Lin Miaomiao originally thought that the food here would be better than that in the cafeteria, but she didn't expect that it seemed to be even worse than that. At least the food in the cafeteria was relatively refreshing, and tofu would never be put in the stir-fried radish. The food here was almost like a hot pot, with potatoes, white radish, and tofu stewed in a bowl, and there were also large pieces of fat in it, which made people lose their appetite. How could it be? Are all the meals in the guest house like this? Carrots, pickled cabbage, beans and stir-fried meat, onions, garlic sprouts, tomatoes and eggs, bitter melon, zucchini and braised chicken legs. Liu Kaoyer was about to cry while grabbing the chopsticks. She really couldn't eat such dishes. Even Feng Liken frowned in disgust. Why don't you just cook all the dishes in one pot, so that you don't have to use so many bowls when serving? It would be more practical to use a big bowl to serve them. Everyone smiled bitterly at each other and began to consider whether they should just go out and drink nutritional supplements to fill their stomachs. There were tables for 8 people in the restaurant. In addition to Lin Miaomiao and the other 6 people she knew, there were also 2 unfamiliar female soldiers. They picked up their chopsticks and started eating as if nothing had happened, as if they didn't mind at all that the dishes looked so ugly. Liu Kaoyer watched for a moment, noticing how the 2 men ate with gusto, as if they were feasting on delicacies from heaven. Curious, she asked, sisters, are these dishes really that delicious? The 2 female soldiers appeared to be in their 30s or 40s. She didn't want to use unfamiliar terms like senior or comrade, so calling them sister was more appropriate. Hearing Liu Kaoyer's question, the ordinary-looking but gentle soldier looked up and smiled. Whether it tastes good or not depends on the situation. These dishes look messy, but they're definitely better than drinking nutritional supplements. The other soldier, with a delicate face and slightly dark skin, was less friendly. She kept picking at the dishes with her chopsticks, her mouth prickly. You look like hothouse flowers. You haven't experienced much hardship yet. Once you go on more missions and drink more nutritional supplements, You'll realize that even pig food is better than them. Alang, why are you saying this? The ordinary-looking female soldier grumbled. Don't forget how you were when you first joined the fleet. You were disgusted by everything. Now you've adapted. You should give people a chance to adjust. Alang felt embarrassed and glared at her with dissatisfaction. Jia, what's wrong with you? You don't help me but protect outsiders. Do you want to quarrel again? Jia felt very bad. Why are you like this? We agreed not to call you by this name. I'm Su Jing now, not Su Jia. If you call me that again, I'll be angry with you. The two glared at each other, snorted at the same time, turned their heads away, and continued to eat as if they didn't care about each other. Liu Kai'er, the instigator of this war, was very uneasy. She leaned over to Lin Miaomiao and whispered, "What should I do?" "I made them quarrel." Lin Miaomiao couldn't help but laugh. Judging from the two people's actions, she was afraid that they quarreled a lot. She shook her head and whispered to comfort them, "It's okay, they should have a good relationship. They probably use quarrels as a spice of seasoning on a daily basis." After comforting her friend, she looked up, only to meet Alang's fierce eyes. Lin Miaomiao almost raised her hand to her forehead. Was this guy's ears too sharp? He heard such a quiet conversation. Fortunately, he didn't say anything bad about them. "Let's eat," Liu Kai'er muttered and moved her chopsticks. In fact, what the other person said was right. Since you are a soldier, you can't be too spoiled. In fact, these dishes just don't look good. You will know they are not too bad after you put them in your mouth. The foodies had already started eating, and naturally, the others followed suit. Only Lin Miaomiao remained disapproving. It wasn't the food that was bad, but the way the female soldier named Alang was stirring the food with her saliva-soaked chopsticks. Unable to convince herself to eat, Lin Miaomiao sat aside, sipping her juice intermittently, thinking about eating in the cafeteria for lunch from now on, or making a packaged meal at the villa in the morning and bringing it over. If only the hour wasn't too rushed, she would have wanted to go back to the villa to eat. Since they weren't staying in the guest house, there was nowhere to rest after dinner. She could either go back to the arena or find a spot on the lawn to sit. "Miaomiao, why don't you eat?" Fang Licken touched her arm. "I don't know what time it will end in the afternoon." "Eat something." "No." Lin Miaomiao shook her head and refused. "I'm not hungry yet." "You guys eat." Fang Licken knew that she would not change her mind, so she didn't persuade her anymore. She lowered her head and continued to eat. But the female soldier named Alang sneered and said 3 words, "Squeamish." Lin Miaomiao raised her eyebrows. She didn't eat because of someone's bad habits. She didn't say anything to save her face. She didn't expect that the other person would not appreciate it at all, so she said coldly, "This comrade seems to have misunderstood the reason why I don't eat." Alang curled her red lips. "It's just that you don't like the food and don't want to eat it." "Where is the misunderstanding?" "No." Lin Miaomiao shook her head and denied it. "I just don't like eating your saliva. After all, you have washed the chopsticks many times for each dish." Alang felt terrible. The hands holding the chopsticks were petrified, and Liu Kai'er and others had a look of seeing a ghost on their faces. Zhu Chen, who loved cleanliness, threw down his chopsticks directly. "I'm full." Chapter 529 IQ Problem. Because of Lin Miaomiao's words, this meal was a collective nutritional supplement after all. Everyone said that there was other people's saliva in it. They could bear not to spit out what they had eaten, but continuing to eat was impossible. However, the female soldier named Su Jing just smiled when she heard this, and did not put down her chopsticks, as if she didn't mind at all. She also apologized to them casually. Alang is used to being casual. "I didn't pay attention for a moment and forgot to restrain her behavior." "It's useless for you to restrain her," Alang said defiantly. "I won't listen to you." Su Jing didn't get angry either, she just smiled and said, "It's up to you whether to listen or not. Anyway, you can only cause a little trouble with me." Lin Miaomiao was embarrassed. Why did the conversation between these two people sound a little wrong? To be more precise, the way they got along was ambiguous, just like the couple Zhu Chen and Yu Zixin. Could they be a couple too? Come to think of it, it's actually possible. IVF technology is now so mature that both homosexual and heterosexual relationships are normal. No one would object. Anyone who dared to say homosexuality was a disease would likely be drowned in spit. No wonder the female soldier named Su Jing didn't seem to mind when she said there was Alang's saliva in the food. Thinking of this, Lin Miaomiao didn't pay much attention and simply sat in the restaurant for a while longer. It was almost 12:40 when the others left and headed for the arena. Since it was still early, there was no need to rush, so they simply walked. Sitting all day was uncomfortable, so a bit of movement would be nice, especially if there weren't people around who kept glancing at her, wanting to say something but not being able to. Lin Miaomiao thought so. They strolled leisurely, arriving at the arena at 1:55. Even after they were seated, Xie Yaoqian, who had something to say, couldn't utter a single word, causing Yu Zixin to shed a tear of sympathy for him. When they took their seats, Xie Yaoqian had originally intended to sit next to Lin Miaomiao, but his plan didn't pan out. After all, their fleet didn't have just one recruiting representative, and with more fleets arriving this year, they needed to sit with their own people to discuss the recruitment process. After an hour's absence, the situation on the 9-story pagoda had changed considerably. Most of the male students had already climbed to the 3rd floor, while the female students lagged far behind, still hovering between the 1st and 2nd floors. Lin Miaomiao didn't worry about the distance. What she was more concerned about was, how come half of the people on the tower are gone in just 1 hour? Yeah, I said it looked wrong. It turns out that most of the people are gone. Liu Kaoyer was surprised. Did they run out of strength and fall down? Without waiting for anyone to respond, she muttered to herself, just say these people lack exercise. It's just a 100-meter high tower. There are so many bumps and they climb so slowly. If it were us, we could get up in less than an hour. Fang Liqin rolled her eyes. If you were still in school a year ago, could you climb this 9-story tower in one day? Liu Kaoyer was speechless. Although the school had physical training and mecha combat classes, she didn't take them seriously. According to Jin Hao, the school focused more on cultural courses. Physical training and the like would be more important once you join the fleet, so climbing walls were really not something students in school were good at. I don't know when the competition will be over. I wonder if we'll have to work the night shift tonight. Lin Miaomiao casually took down the binoculars and hung them around her neck, yawning softly. Watching the competition was boring. It would be more fun to climb on her own. No, Zhu Chen said, unfazed. Even if we had the fortitude to sit here and watch, those students don't have the stamina. The male students on the 3rd floor seem to be ahead, but their energy is almost depleted. Some of them are shaking. Lin Miaomiao hadn't noticed. She raised the binoculars and looked again for a long time, only to find that, just as he'd predicted, most of the male students were pale, their hands and feet trembling, as if they were about to give up. Looking back at the female students, most of them were in high spirits, having rested mid-sentence. Their speed of climbing was about the same as in the morning, and the gap between them and the male students was gradually closing. Surprisingly, several female students, after reaching the semicircular eaves on the 3rd floor, sat still, seemingly giving up on the competition. Of course, anyone attempting to seize the opportunity and push them down would be in for a rude awakening. One male student had attempted such an idea, but unfortunately, he was shoved down by a group of them as soon as he approached. For a while, no one else bothered to attack them. These guys are smart, they might even be the ultimate winners, Fang Liqin predicted. No way, Liu Kaoyer said, incredulous. Don't you have to get the Barbie doll? It's not like it's going to fall from the sky if you just sit there. Lin Miaomiao sighed. Your IQ is a major flaw. Liu Kaoyer was furious. Enough. Just asking a few extra questions and implying she was lacking intelligence was unbearable. Just as she was about to lash out, Yu Zixin interrupted. Kaoyer, you pig, what else do you think about every day besides eating? The battle up there is fierce, and people keep falling down. That is to say, they keep reducing their opponents just by sitting. When others advance one level, they will follow up after a good rest. In the end, if the contestants in front plus them are not over 100, they just need to follow them. But what if the people in front are over 100? Liu Kaoyer asked unconvinced. Then they will be one step late. Don't rest on the last 2 levels, just follow up. They will be very energetic. On the contrary, those in the lead have never rested and are fighting with others endlessly. How much strength will they have left in the end? Yu Zixin rolled his eyes and despised her. You can't figure out such a simple thing. No wonder Miaomiao said you have an IQ problem. Lin Miaomiao clarified with a wooden face. You said this, not me. Don't try to put the blame on me. Yu Zixin touched his nose and smiled awkwardly. You just didn't say it explicitly. That's not what I said. Lin Miaomiao always prided herself on being reserved and never making things too explicit. Even if everyone understood her meaning, she could still come up with a bunch of twisted theories without admitting it. The attempt to use her name to disparage Liu Kaoyu naturally failed, and Yu Zixin was bombarded with criticism from several women. And so, the five of them played around, occasionally watching the competition, and in a blink of an eye, another afternoon passed. At around 6 o'clock, Zhang Jia didn't call for everyone to stop and go to dinner, because the competition was coming to an end, just as they had predicted. Of the 7 classes of the Mecha department, there were over 500 contestants, but only a little over 100 were still hanging on the tower, and most of them had already climbed to the eaves of the 8th floor. Chapter 530, Battle for the Doll. The eaves of each floor were the same size, only the tower itself tapered downwards. With fewer people, the safe distance they could maintain grew larger. At this point, they no longer had the energy to trap others and could only push upwards with all their might, striving to reach the top and snatch the doll. The students, never having experienced such relentless exertion, were nearing exhaustion. Several female students lagging behind began to accelerate, closing the gap. The students ahead initially ignored them, but when they realized they had caught up and were even beating down a few exhausted individuals, they began to panic. In panic, some began to climb faster, while others, with a sudden inspiration, returned to the eaves of the 8th floor, resting while remaining vigilant. As long as they weren't hanging onto the wall, it would be difficult to push someone down. The female students also had their own ideas. Seeing these people on guard, they decided not to try to provoke them. There were 100 spots available, so why bother with a head-on confrontation? Pick on the weak. Those male students who were a bit thin or pale were in trouble. As they say, the female mecha students are the ultimate queens. Even if they're naturally weaker than the men, they're not much different. Combined with their collective strength, they quickly eliminated a number of their opponents. Over the next half hour, the female students' presence was completely wiped out, causing a sense of crisis among the few powerful male students who felt complacent. They immediately recruited nearby classmates to join forces. By then, the tower wall facing Lin Miaomiao was nearly empty. "Look, us female mecha masters are amazing," Liu Kaoyu boasted to Yu Zixin, as if she had defeated her opponent. "Don't try to bully me anymore, or I'll team up and bully you back." Yu Zixin turned his head away, not wanting to pay attention to her. This crazy girl, he wondered if he had been unlucky enough to end up with someone like her. It was truly a bad choice. After all, he was his beloved. How could Zhu Chen bear to see him being squeezed out? He calmly changed the subject. "I don't know how many contestants are left on the other sides. Are these female students planning to clear this side out? They probably want to, but they have to have the ability to do so." Yu Zixin grinned. "The people on the eaves of the 8th floor alone are enough for them to guard against. Besides, the remaining students have already formed a group. Next, they either climb up quietly or find another opportunity to pull others down the tower." This was indeed the case. After seeing that their opponents had formed a group, several female students gathered together and held a quiet meeting. Then they divided into 2 groups, one in front and the other behind, to continue climbing the tower. It seemed that they were going to grab the Barbie doll. The male students who formed a group breathed a sigh of relief and began to climb up together. Surprisingly, the female students weren't the first to climb the tower. Just as they were about to reach the top, several male students rushed out from the opposite direction, each clutching a Barbie doll and turning away. One of them, seemingly simple-looking and somewhat goofy, stared at the doll for a long moment, feeling apprehensive. Climbing the tower was difficult enough, but descending with such a large doll in his arms was a surefire way to fall. Even more frustrating, there were dozens of dolls lying on the ground, yet someone who'd climbed up later tried to snatch them from his arms. The idiot, furious, clutched the dolls tightly in his left hand and, with his right, grabbed an inflatable hammer and hammered the would-be thief down, sending him flying off the tower. Lin Miaomiao gaped in surprise. This guy was truly shameless. The male student who'd climbed so hard only to steal the dolls to save a few steps was a prime example. After a day's hard work, he fell down just as he was about to reap the fruits of his victory. It was truly heartbreaking. "You lose more than you gain," Fang Licken said disdainfully. "You should have taken a good look at this person's appearance. If there were no dolls on the ground, it would be understandable to grab them, but the fact is that there are still a lot of them," and he insisted on fighting with others. Liu Kaoyu was also indignant. "That's right, We can't accept such a person. If he comes to sign up with us, we will definitely not accept him. It's really not good to have a big heart, but you think too much? Although the situation of our fleet has improved a lot, it's not to the point where everyone is scrambling to get in. Zhu Chen was a little helpless. Instead of thinking so much, it's better to see if there are any students with average strength but relatively smart. Lin Miaomiao thought for a long time and suggested, I think those female students are good. If there's a chance, you might as well pull them into the fleet, bold, careful and smart. Just hope that their current mecha technician level is too high, otherwise Shen Yu will never get a turn. Feng Liqin and Liu Kaoyer nodded in agreement. Zhu Chen also thought it was a good idea, only Yu Zixin had a bitter face and was not very happy. We already have enough tigresses in our fleet, why drag a few more in? It would be fine if it was just a casual remark, but while he was saying it, he looked at Lin Miaomiao and the other two with a lingering frightened look, as if he was hinting at something. So he was violently suppressed by the three tigresses. Some pulled his ears, stepped on his feet, and twisted the soft flesh on his waist, which hurt so much that he broke out in cold sweats even in the middle of winter. Bullied but not daring to retaliate, Yu Zixin could only turn around and howl, "You don't love me anymore, and you don't help me when you see me being bullied." Zhu Chen pulled the corner of his mouth, reached out and touched his head to comfort him. "Be good, stop making trouble, I have a powerful backer. If you don't want to go back and get punished, then don't cause trouble. It's so great to have a backer," Yu Zixin said relentlessly. "Isn't it just that you have a captain fiancé? You just have to work hard and grab the captain position." Zhu Chen broke out in a cold sweat. The captain position is not something you can get if you want it. He believes he doesn't have the ability to do it. He can only comfort him with soft words. And promise to go to the Star Network to buy him his favorite spicy fish with mountain pepper after today's game. Buy your favorite from Green Source Star. Yu Zixin frowned and thought for a long time. "I want to buy 10 kilograms, the extra spicy kind, 1 kilogram of extra spicy, and 9 kilograms of mildly spicy, no, at least 8 kilograms of extra spicy, 2 kilograms, everyone was in a state of embarrassment. It was truly shameful to argue in public over a few pounds of dried fish. Those who didn't know would think we were poor. Did they see the contemptuous looks the guys around us gave us? Lin Miaomiao curled her lips, not wanting to bother paying attention to the couple who were so engrossed in their thoughts. She turned to Jin Hao, who was dozing off in his chair, and said, "Teacher Jin, wake up and help me check the information of those female students." Jin Hao turned his head away sleepily, pretending not to hear the mosquito buzzing in his ear. How could there still be mosquitoes in the middle of winter? It seemed that the school needed to pay more attention to its hygiene. Chapter 531 complained. After calling out for a long time, Jin Hao showed no signs of waking up. Instead, he started snoring softly, looking like he was sleeping soundly. Lin Miaomiao really wanted to pour the ice water in the space over him. "Hey, Teacher Jin must have done something bad last night, otherwise why would he sleep all day today?" Yu Zixin said with a playful smile. Could he have gone to his girlfriend's place? Liu Kaoyer immediately became interested when she heard that. Girlfriend, Teacher Yi's daughter. Yeah, he said the other day that he wanted to marry Teacher Yi's daughter. He can't be having two relationships at the same time. That's not necessarily true. Lin Miaomiao glanced at Jin Hao, whose snoring was getting louder and louder. Teacher Yi doesn't seem to like him very much. She probably wouldn't agree to them living together. Then it's very suspicious that Teacher Jin was so tired at night and did something. The snoring stopped strangely for a moment, and started again after a few seconds, but it was not as rhythmic as at the beginning. It was sometimes strong and sometimes weak, and there was a sense of chaos. Now everyone around him could sense that something was wrong. Teacher Jin's snoring is really unique, sometimes loud, sometimes soft. People who don't know him would think he is pretending to sleep. Yu Zixin touched his chin, with an extremely weird smile on his face. Could it be that he doesn't want to see us, so he pretends to sleep on purpose? Liu Kaoyer rolled her eyes. We don't have any deep hatred with him, why wouldn't he want to see us? Feng Liqin smiled gently. Maybe when he came back, he lost his in the mecha competition and he felt a little embarrassed. The snoring stopped completely. Jin Hao closed his eyes and gritted his teeth. You bunch of guys who don't know how to respect teachers, you team up to squeeze the teacher. Do you still want to get by? Do you want to, huh? Zhu Chen expressed his confusion. Teacher Jin, aren't you asleep? Jin Hao twitched his mouth. He was just closing his eyes to rest. He didn't want to move after hearing Lin Miaomiao's words, so he pretended to be asleep. but he didn't expect to be seen through. However, even if he was seen through, he didn't think it mattered, so he said calmly, "I caught a cold and didn't sleep well last night. I feel dizzy and want to sleep all the time today. Don't disturb me if you don't have anything to do. Something's going on," Lin Miaomiao said with a wooden face. "I want the information of those female students." Jin Hao opened his eyelids slightly, and said rather gloomily, "I don't know either. You can ask Teacher Zhang Jia. We are not familiar with Teacher Zhang." "Teacher Jin, please help us," Liu Kaoyer begged. "It's too much trouble to check it by myself." "No," Jin Hao said righteously, "I am your teacher. As a student, you order me to do things. You don't take me seriously. I think you need to study etiquette." Lin Miaomiao couldn't help laughing and crying. Not only did he not help, but he also put on the airs of a teacher and completely put aside his duties as a receptionist. Teacher Jin must be living too comfortably. "I think we should talk to the principal and replace the reception teacher," Zhu Chen said with a gentle smile. "Teacher Jin is obviously not used to being a receptionist, so it's better to change him to someone more familiar. Let's change him, anyway." "I didn't want to be this reception teacher." Jin Hao couldn't help but be happy. He was forced to take this task by the principal, and it would be great if he could get out of it. Lin Miaomiao and the others looked at each other helplessly. Since he didn't want to be a reception teacher, they could only ask the principal to replace him, so as to save him from finding ways to engage in passive resistance. The results of the preliminary round came out soon. The 100 Barbie dolls were scratched off and distributed. There were still a few people who were late standing on the top of the tower crying. After climbing hard for a whole day, they were only a few minutes late. It was hard not to cry. Lin Miaomiao's favorites naturally advanced to the finals and received their information. Zhu Chen had asked Zhang Jia for it, while Jin Hao, who was on strike, urged them to hurry to the principal's office. "I'm hanging around a bunch of you bastards all day, so how can I have time for love?" So Teacher Jin was really doing this on purpose, hoping they'd get fed up and complain. Originally, the replacement was just a casual remark, but Jin Hao had unexpectedly forced them to complain to the principal immediately. With no other options, they had to move to the principal's office. Fang Dongqing was sitting in the principal's office, cross-legged, watching the preliminary round broadcast. Principal Fang, overwhelmed with the work, didn't have time to go to the arena, but he needed to keep an eye on the progress, so he opted to watch the live broadcast. He sipped tea and ate snacks while watching, a break from his busy schedule. Unfortunately, before he could even get a moment's rest, trouble arrived. Seeing Jin Hao, with an anxious look on his face, enter with a string of candied haws, Fang Dongqing's contentment instantly vanished. "Ahem, Teacher Jin, what are you doing?" None of the people Jin Hao had brought were strangers. Since this was their alma mater, Fang Dongqing figured he should give them a chance to greet him. Lin Miaomiao and the others were quick to react and stepped forward, calling out, "Hello, Principal Fang." "Hello," Fang Dongqing said with a smile. "Today's competition is over. Why don't you go back and rest?" "What are you doing here, old man?" "We're here to file a complaint," the five replied in unison. "Complain?" Fang Dongqing looked at Jin Hao, bewildered, wanting an explanation. But Jin Hao, hoping for relief, refused to give in. He acted like he didn't exist, let alone answer his questions. Liu Kaoyer felt they were being pressured into filing a complaint. They'd be in big trouble. What if the principal thought they were being pretentious and stopped them from recruiting? Fleets were free to choose whether to recruit from a particular school, but schools could also voluntarily decline recruitment requests from certain fleets, especially the top 3 military academies. Thinking that Jin Paopi had deliberately framed them to come to the principal's office to complain in order to have more time to chat with his girlfriend, Liu Kaoyer, who was smart for once, decided not to be led by the nose, so she took the initiative to explain. "Principal, Teacher Jin asked us to come to you to complain." Jin Hao, who was standing aside waiting for good news, was dumbfounded for a moment. How could there be such a complaint? It was obvious that he was trying to trick him. Sure enough, it was his doing. Fang Dongqing glanced at Jin Hao unhappily, but turned around and asked Liu Kaoyer with a smile, "What's the matter? Why are you complaining?" "It's like this." Liu Kaoyer was about to explain the whole thing in detail, but Jin Hao, who came to his senses, interrupted her. "It's okay, it's okay. They haven't been back for a long time. I was just joking with you. Don't mind it, Principal." Fang Dongqing snorted heavily. He said he was here to complain, But he actually forced it into a joke. Jinhao was getting more and more outrageous. He couldn't be fooled this time. Having made up his mind, Principal Fang said calmly, "Teacher Jin, they are now recruiting representatives, not your students. You are not qualified to speak on their behalf. You'd better get out of the way." Chapter 532, Digging a Trap Together. What? The principal didn't even give him a chance to speak. Jinhao wanted to cry, but he had no tears. He just didn't like being a receptionist and wanted to use a little trick to push the job off. But he couldn't let his little thoughts be exposed. You know, Teacher Yi has a very good relationship with the principal. If Teacher Yi knew that he didn't do his job properly and was only thinking about his children's love, he would definitely be more certain that he was not a good candidate for a son-in-law. What should he do if he restricted Liang Chu even more? No, he couldn't give up like this. Jinhao approached Fang Dongqing with a shameless face. How can the principal say that? Didn't the old saying say that a teacher is a father for life? Even if they join the fleet, aren't they still my students? Liu Kaoyer's eyes widened. Teacher Jin, you can't give birth to a daughter as old as me. Jinhao, this girl is about to make him cry because of his stupidity. It was just a metaphor, okay? Regardless of whether it was a metaphor or not, Fang Dongqing, who was originally furious, was amused and his expression softened a lot. Okay, stop thinking about it and get back to the topic. What do you want to complain about? Liu Kaoyer glanced at a few friends with a smug look, puffed out her chest and said proudly, I don't know what Teacher Jin did last night. He took us to watch the preliminary competition today and just sat there sleeping all day. We asked him to help look up the information of a few students, but he refused. He said he didn't want to be a reception teacher and asked us to complain to the principal. Lin Miaomiao looked at Jinhao with pity. Seeing that his face stiffened a little, she felt refreshed immediately. Don't think she didn't know what Jin Baopi was planning. He just wanted to rely on his identity as their former class teacher to make them conceal his irresponsibility and find other reasons to replace him. If it was her or Zuchen or Feng Liqin who spoke up, they would really find an excuse, such as having a cold and feeling unwell, not being good at reception work, etc. In this way, Jinhao could get away without taking too much responsibility. Unfortunately, Liu Kaoyer interrupted, spilling the beans. It wasn't just that Teacher Jin couldn't refuse the reception duties, she was also facing a possible reprimand. All she could say about this heartbreaking situation was, great. I've been wanting to see the club Teacher Jin get into trouble. With the whole thing laid out before Fang Dongqing, Jinhao couldn't conceal it even if he wanted to. He could only laugh dryly in his defense. I just figured I'd be too familiar with him, and it would be awkward being a receptionist for my own students. Fang Dongqing offered a half smile. I see. How about I swap you with another teacher? A representative from the Jinghong fleet has arrived. Why don't you switch with Teacher Qi? Jinhao was shocked. Teacher Qi was a renowned scoundrel at the school, and he didn't particularly enjoy such trivial tasks. It was precisely for this reason that the principal had assigned Jinghong to his reception duties. If he were to intrude and take over the job, he wouldn't be able to regain his carefree days, but instead would face a potential reprimand. This kind of thing had to be stopped. No need, principal, you misunderstood. I was just joking with Galia, but she took it so seriously. Jinhao smiled. I'm used to playing with them and teasing them. Fang Dongqing naturally didn't believe it. Liu Kaoyer even looked at him with a squint, as if he had said something strange. Jinhao almost couldn't hold back his temper. But this was in the principal's office, and he didn't dare to lose his temper. He could only look at Zuchen and Lin Miaomiao for help. As a good kid with a positive outlook on life, Zuchen still respected his teachers. When he received a look for help, he stood up without saying a word. Principal, don't mind it. Teacher Jin is a joker. Kaoyer couldn't tell the difference between the real and the fake, so she came to you. She can't tell the difference? Can't you tell the difference too? Fang Dongqing was filled with complaints, but he didn't bother to dwell on such trivial matters. He feigned a genial smile and said, Zuchen, you're joking. I don't mind such trivial matters. If it weren't for this little misunderstanding, you wouldn't be here to see an old man like me. Principal, you're not old at all. You're still in the prime of your youth, Liu Kaoyer said flatteringly. But when she looked up at Fang Dongqing's shiny bald head, she felt a pang of annoyance. If Miaomiao and the others weren't planning something, she wouldn't have said such a lie. But what were they planning? They wouldn't even share the information with her. How unkind. Liu Kaoyer's mind raced. but she kept pouring out flattering words like wise and brave, magnanimous, perceptive, and immortal, or infamous. It seems she accidentally said the wrong idiom. Fang Dongqing, beaming with praise, was stunned. Seeing that the situation was not good, Fang Liqin hurriedly shouted, "Cater, what are you talking about? If you don't know how to use idioms, don't use them casually, Liqin, don't bother with her," Lin Miaomiao said. "Everyone knows she has a bad habit of abusing idioms. The principal has always been generous and won't make a fuss about it." Fang Dongqing was speechless. It sounded as if he was narrow-minded if he made a fuss. How could he answer? He could only force a smile and say, "Cater is just too straightforward. She doesn't mean any harm. How could I care about it?" But there was still a knot in his heart, so he started to chase them away. "Since Teacher Zhu was just joking, you should go back and rest early. You have to go out tomorrow, so you have to stay alert." The elimination round was over, and the remaining 100 contestants had to continue to the next round. However, because they had been hanging on the tower all day today, most of them had weak hands and feet. Even if they went back and used the massage chair for an hour or so, I'm afraid few of them would be able to get up tomorrow. Fortunately, the rematch was a wilderness survival competition on another planet. They just had to gather at school on time the next day to board the ship, where they could rest up. So no one paid much attention to Fang Dongqing's words, and they were even more reluctant to be sent away like that. Lin Miaomiao, Fang Liqin, and Zhu Chen exchanged a glance, hesitating for a few seconds before speaking with a straight face. "We can rest on the ship tomorrow, and we're not in a hurry to go back. If the principal is free, why don't you join us for dinner?" Then, as if remembering something, he added, "Teacher Jin will treat." Jin Hao was dumbfounded. When had he agreed to treat? How could Miaomiao be so treacherous? He wanted to question the principal, but he was afraid to overthink it, so he could only stare at him resentfully, expecting a refusal. At this hour, the principal must have finished his meal. Fang Dongqing, who was about to refuse, was dissatisfied with his performance. He didn't even mention that he had already eaten. He agreed very straightforwardly, "It just so happens that I didn't eat much for dinner today, so I can have some more. It doesn't matter. If you can't eat much, just eat more dishes," Yu Zixin said with a smile. "By the way, where are we going to eat?" There is also a snack street near the school. There are several food stalls in it. Although the taste is not as good as that of big restaurants, it is clean and tidy and the price is affordable. Jin Hao thinks that since he can't avoid the situation of treating others, he might as well go there. "Let's go to Rui's stall. The food there tastes pretty good." Lin Miaomiao and others knew his temper. He just wanted to trick him once and didn't intend to make him angry, so naturally they had no objection. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 533 Fell into the Toilet? The semifinals involved wilderness survival, and the rules were largely the same as last year's. However, the school, hesitant to boldly send students to undeveloped planets, borrowed a previously cleared planet from the military and sent personnel from the Dawn to capture some level 2 and 3 alien beasts. The 100 participants who entered the semifinals were divided into groups of 10, forming exactly 10 teams. The teams were not randomly selected, but drawn by lot to prevent all the Tier 4 mech operators from being grouped together. According to Zhang Jia, in addition to the level 2 and 3 alien beasts, 10 level 4 alien beasts were also scattered throughout the competition venue. Even if a team lacked a level 4 mech operator, it wouldn't be dangerous for a single team to attack a single level 4 alien beast. Furthermore, with fewer teams participating this time, to ensure the safety of the participating students, each team would be accompanied by an intelligent robot bodyguard. In the event of an emergency, a distress signal would be sent out, and rescue would arrive immediately. Of course, once a distress signal was sent, the competition for that team came to an end. "I don't know which planet we're going to for this competition, or how far it's from here," Lin Miaomiao said nostalgically, sitting in the dining room aboard the Dawn. "Last year, we took this battleship to Yalin. Yeah, I didn't expect that after a year, we'd still have the chance to sit here again," Liu Kaoyer said with deep emotion. "I remember the morning we disembarked, you packed up a lot of breakfast in the cafeteria, and asked everyone to do the same. In the end, many people didn't get to eat, Lin Miaomiao's face darkened. How could such a dark past not be mentioned? I wonder if the fleet cafeteria still allows takeout now? Maybe we should try it later? Not long after they sat down, 100 contestants followed their teacher aboard. Since there wasn't much room to sit on the battleship, they were brought to the dining room for a small group meeting. Lin Miaomiao and the others wanted to retreat to their rooms, but they found it boring, so they simply sat still. After all, it wouldn't be a big deal. They just had to be careful when encountering strange beasts during the competition and be cautious when facing opponents. Just as they expected, the team leader gave them some instructions and assigned dormitories to the 100 participants before disbanding. The contestants, their small bags on their backs, settled into their dormitories. Liu Gaoyu, impatient with the space, said, "Anyone who didn't know would think we were sitting here waiting for lunch and would laugh at us. We might as well go back to our rooms and read novels or watch movies. Or, at worst, play a couple of cards. The dormitories aren't big, and there aren't any tables or chairs. If you want to play cards, you can sit here and do it," Yu Zixin said, reluctant to go back. Each representative had a dorm, but the private rooms were quite small, only 10 square meters. This had been fine before. After all, the Dawn was only a medium-sized warship. But after joining the Shenyu fleet, both the base and the ship's dormitories were spacious, and the small rooms felt stuffy. Furthermore, the sight of that cramped room reminded them of the dark quarters in the fleet. Aside from the light and the softer beds, everything else was pretty much the same. So, aside from the resilient Liu Gaoyu, no one else was particularly keen on staying in their rooms. As for Yu Zixin's proposal, no one took it seriously. "We are wearing military uniforms and sitting in the restaurant playing cards. What will others think? They might think that we, Shenyu, are so decadent that we are openly gambling in broad daylight." "Who said that? There is no prize. How can it be considered gambling?" Yu Zixin was dissatisfied. He felt that this would better reflect the humanity of the fleet. Relaxed and comfortable, without too many rules, Liu Gaoyu looked down on him. "Come on, this is simply a fraud. When did we play cards in the fleet in broad daylight? It's not that we don't have time. If you want, you can play a few games of Landlord in the half hour after dinner every day," Yu Zixin said seriously. This made so much sense that Liu Gaoyu was speechless and could only shut up silently. After convincing one person, Yu Zixin wanted to convince the others in one go, but he didn't expect that everyone would not give him a chance. Lin Miaomiao said, "I'm not smart, and I always lose more than I win playing Landlord, so I won't join in the fun." Feng Licken said, "I'm not very interested in this kind of entertainment. There are just 3 of you, can't you open a table? Landlord is just right for 3 people, although there are 4-person types." But Yu Zixin didn't think it was interesting, so he ignored them and turned to look at Zhu Chen expectantly. "Ashen." Zhu Chen held his forehead. He didn't want to play cards in public. It would be fatal if his grandfather heard about it, so he said seriously, "I want to go to the bathroom. You guys play first." After that, he ignored her boyfriend's disappointed look, got up and slowly left the restaurant. The abandoned Yu Zixin was angry. "Who suggested playing cards just now? How can we play now that we are 3 short of 1? Kanyer suggested it." Lin Miaomiao and Feng Licken said in unison, "If you want to play, find her, but there are only 2 of us including me." Liu Gaoyu looked at them eagerly. "Kanyer, Licken, who of you can make up the number? Don't even think about it." Another unison answer. The 2 couldn't help but smile at each other. "Don't go too far," Liu Gaoyu said indignantly. "Are you still friends?" Lin Miaomiao blinked. It would be troublesome if she really pissed people off. Kanyer was becoming more and more difficult to coax, but she really didn't like playing Landlord. After thinking about it, she suggested, "Otherwise, don't play Landlord. You 2 can play Turtle or Blackjack." Unable to persuade their friends to join the battle, Liu Gaoyu and Yu Zixin had to accept their fate. After discussing for a while, they started playing Turtle. Lin Miaomiao and Feng Licken, who had escaped the disaster, got together to watch Star Cinema, a rather vulgar movie. The rich lady chooses a husband. Liu Gaoyu, still resentful of their lack of cooperation, said sourly, "You have such poor taste. You're actually watching a story about a narcissistic woman who flirts with everyone to find a husband. You're probably trying to emulate her, aren't you?" Lin Miaomiao squinted at her and said contemptuously, "Draw your cards, Liu Turtle." After a few rounds of playing, Liu Gaoyu, who had always drawn the turtle card, became furious. She turned around and gritted her teeth as she drew more seriously. She swore she would give the turtle card away. Half an hour later, Zhu Chen, who had gone to the bathroom, finally returned. He was surprised to see only 2 people drawing the turtle card. Why aren't you playing landlord? But this situation also brought a great deal of relief. Drawing the turtle card was just a child's game. Even if someone complained about it, it wouldn't do any good. Such an interesting little game would attract the students' attention. But while he was satisfied, Yu Zixin wasn't. He angrily yelled at him, "You still remembered to come back? I thought you fell into the toilet." Although the restaurant was small, there were some who, like them, didn't want to be cooped up in their rooms. Yu Zixin's angry voice was loud, and the moment he spoke, Zhu Chen was immediately stared at. The usually elegant Master Zhu was disheveled. Chapter 534, Winning People's Hearts. After 2 days of rapid progress, the morning sun finally slowed down near a dense cluster of small planets. Jin Hao announced that they were almost at their destination, and everyone on the ship, bored to death, was overjoyed. Liu Kaoyer jumped up and down, as if a gift had fallen from the sky. "We're finally here. This ship is so boring. There's nothing to do except watch the stars, and you guys won't even play cards with me. You can go to the physical training room upstairs and have some fun," Lin Miaomiao said grimly. "If you just play all day, you might miss out on training when you get back." During their 2 days on the ship, Lin Miaomiao and Feng Liken frequently went to the physical training room for their daily training. Zhu Chen had wanted to go too, but Yu Zixin dragged him along. Apart from watching the stars, he played turtle with Liu Kaoyer, completely forgetting about training. Lin Miaomiao initially tried to remind her, but Liu Kaoyer silenced her with the excuse, "It's too early to go back, let's relax for a few days." Eventually, she simply gave up. After all, it wasn't her who would suffer if she missed training. Now at the competition venue, seeing Liu Kaoyer's cheerful expression, she couldn't help but want to pour cold water on her. And Liu Kaoyer was indeed disappointed. Since returning to Milulin, she had been busy playing and hadn't really exercised, which made her feel a little uneasy. "We train every day, and we'll only be taking a few days off this time. It shouldn't be too long, right? We'll be on missions back then, so we won't have time to train." Feng Liken nodded gently. "It's really not a big deal. At most, we won't be able to complete the training and go hungry for a few days." "No, we won't go hungry. We have convenient nutritional supplements." Liu Kaoyer's face fell. This was clearly a prank. In fact, she didn't want to be lazy, but when she first arrived in Milulin, she had to spend more time with the old man and the old woman. After not seeing them for over a year, she had to do her daughter's duty. Later, on the dawn, the training room was so small, and there were so many people on board. How could she not have the nerve to fight for a seat? "Oh, right. Didn't I run with you guys the morning we stayed at Miaomiao's villa? How could I not exercise?" Lin Miaomiao frowned. "I ran all morning, and it wasn't even half the amount I usually run, but that still counts as exercise. It's inconvenient to train at home or on the ship," Liu Kaoyer said, feeling a little guilty. "Don't give me that," Feng Liken said, rolling her eyes gently. "I don't believe you don't have a treadmill in your space button." Then, Liu Kaoyer collapsed on the ground, holding her belly with laughter. Rolling her eyes was a ladylike act, and the slow-motion jokes were hilarious, making her forget all her worries. But her laughter was too arrogant and inexplicable, which always made people dislike her, so she soon got her comeuppance. "Crazy girl," Yu Zixin lifted his foot and gently kicked her with his toe. "Why are you laughing so crazily for no reason? Damn it, you idiot. Don't think I won't hit you just because your mistress is here." Liu Kaoyer leaped cleanly from the ground, ready to fight to the death. A man could be killed but not humiliated. He dared to kick her while she was resting on the ground. She would be a woman if she didn't avenge him. Yu Zixin was also furious. Although he and Zhu Chen weren't engaged or married yet, they had met each other's parents and were a formally registered couple. How could they be described as mistresses? With red eyes, the two of them, regardless of the occasion, engaged in a fierce fight. The students in the cafeteria, some excited and some nervous, waiting to land, had no time to think about anything else. They all stared at the chaotic fight. The onlookers were watching and discussing, why did they fight? They seemed to be getting along so well these past few days, always getting together to fight that turtle thing. It's probably a couple's fight. The reason might be a third party. Wasn't that female soldier just yelling about having a mistress? It's really possible. Which fleet are they from? It's so chaotic. Who would dare to join their fleet? You bunch of idiots. Senior you and Senior Zhu are a couple. They've been sitting here for 2 days, and you still haven't remembered who they are, seniors? Ah. I remember, Zhu Chen, Chief Zhu. It's them. Our seniors from the previous class. I didn't expect them to join the same fleet. That fleet must be very good, otherwise how could they all join? We should find out what it's called. That's right, we must find out. The goddess is also in that fleet. I have to follow her. The other recruiting representatives who had been quietly drinking tea in a corner suddenly felt upset. They were very happy when Shen Yu's representative made a fuss. If the representatives had bad behavior, their fleet would not be able to recruit many new recruits. The students did look disdainful at first, but why did these people, who were graduates of the school and well-known figures, immediately win the hearts of the recruits? This is a foul, absolutely a foul. They actually used such a despicable and shameless method to recruit people. It's a pity that they didn't even have the chance to protest. Who made them not think of this method? Even more foul was yet to come. Yu Zixin's aunt was the captain of the Dawn. On the night after the fleet landed, Lin Miaomiao asked her to borrow the kitchen and prepared extra meals for everyone on the ship. She personally made steamed pork with rice flour, braised pork, jiran chicken legs, steamed fish and charcoal roasted duck. When the students arrived for lunch, she and Feng Liken occupied a window and personally served them their extra meals. Liu Kaoyer and Yu Zixin beamed with congratulations, while Zhu Chen stood at the window to maintain order. The students were overjoyed, receiving the blessings of their seniors and enjoying a loving dinner from the goddess of the previous mecha department class. As for the representatives who witnessed a frenzy at the extra meal counter, they could only grit their teeth and silently curse Shen Yu's representatives. I hope they'll be late and sick on recruitment day. Such obvious bribery, and apparently it worked, made them uneasy. The members of the Dawn also spontaneously lined up for their extra meals. The frustrated representatives agreed not to go. We can't let these petty favors buy us off, otherwise how will we have the nerve to snatch new recruits? The principle of giving back and being soft-hearted remains unchanged. Unfortunately, the alliance of the representatives was too fragile. Shi Aoqian took the lead in queuing up to get the extra meal and sat next to the representatives, enjoying the meal happily. When someone accused him of being unethical, he even stuffed someone's mouth with a chicken drumstick. The representative whose mouth was stuffed with a chicken drumstick ate the chicken drumstick in the principle of not wasting food, and then went to queue up at the extra meal window without saying a word. Anyway, since they were already greedy, they had to eat more to seek psychological balance. They couldn't be bribed for a chicken drumstick. Once there was a first time, there would be a second time. Gradually, the representatives were tempted by the aroma of the restaurant. With someone else taking the lead, they all ran to queue up in a daze. They only came to their senses after eating all the extra meals. It was no use regretting it this time. Chapter 535, Revisiting the Energy Star. After a few days of high-profile fun and a dinner that won everyone over, Lin Miaomiao and the others were finally satisfied and stopped going to the restaurant to play. I'm almost vomiting from playing turtles. It's such a childish game. If I keep playing for 2 more days, I won't be able to resist. Liu Kaoyer clenched her fists. Thankfully, they were already at the competition venue, so they didn't have to pretend anymore. This year, several fleets sent representatives to the school to recruit, including major fleets like Jinghong and Yuanfan. Although Chen Yu's ranking had improved, she was still not a good choice. If they just sat and waited for the graduates to choose, few would be interested. To recruit more people, the 5 of them discussed it for a long time and decided to use their fame at school before graduation to lure some younger students. A public visit would seem a bit servile and might even tarnish the fleet's reputation. They wanted the younger students to recognize them, hence the high profile they had been showing these past few days. As for the evening snack, since he had connections on the ship and Lin Miaomiao was a culinary expert, it was normal for him to give his juniors some blessings. Now no one should be unaware that we are seniors from the previous class. Yu Zixin laughed non-stop. He finally didn't have to be a coward. It felt really great. Lin Miaomiao looked at him expressionlessly, then turned to ask Zhu Chen, have you found out which planet we are landing on? The competition will be held on the planet where we land. It will last for half a month, and no one knows where it will be held. If the scenery is nice, we can go around and have a look. Anyway, there are several of them here, and they can take turns to go out and have a look, just like a funded tour. Zhu Chen's face looked a little strange. The scenery here is really nice, but it's a pity that you may not like traveling here too much. Why? Liu Kaoyer and Yu Zixin asked in unison. We've been to this place before and spent quite a bit of time there, Zhu Chen sighed. It would have been a joy to revisit this place, but unfortunately, we lost a teammate here. Lin Miaomiao was stunned. Shen Yu's missions were mostly easy, with only the last Energy Star mission being difficult. So, they were back on Energy Star again? Did the competition say that the results would be determined by each team's harvest? There aren't any rare plants or animals waiting to be found here, so how can they compete? Last year's tryouts allowed contestants to attack each other. While the elimination criteria were simply the shattering of the mech's warning light, some students were still injured, much to the displeasure of parents. A child about to graduate, injured in the final competition, and at the hands of a classmate, seemed unlucky and could easily affect the relationship between the students. Many parents called their children's homeroom teachers to express their dissatisfaction. To prevent this from happening again, while fighting wasn't prohibited in this competition, attacking opponents was also discouraged. Even if a competitor was eliminated, the eliminated competitor's harvest remained theirs. The attacker not only didn't receive any bonus points, but also risked losing points. Of course, there would be no point deduction for counterattacks. You couldn't just run away after being bullied. Under these rules, the outcome of this competition depended on the team's ability to kill exotic beasts and find valuables. The school was prepared for exotic beasts, but it was harder to say about valuables. After all, during the subsequent sweep, Shen Yu didn't find any rare plants or animals. Lin Miaomiao pondered for a long time, but overlooked the most important point. This was an energy planet. As long as they could dig up energy mines, they wouldn't have to worry about points. Although I'm not very happy, I still want to go and have a look, Liu Kaoyer said with a pout. I still remember that the scenery at the bottom of the cliff was very beautiful, although it was later destroyed a lot. I remember it too. Why don't we go and have some fun? There probably won't be much to see at the beginning of the competition. Let's set off tomorrow morning. Yu Zixin thought of a picnic. It's spring here all year round. Sitting on the lawn, watching the scenery, eating, drinking and chatting, it will be a beautiful memory when I think about it in the future. That's right, let's go for a picnic. Liu Kaoyer's eyes sparkled. She grabbed Lin Miaomiao's arm and shook it excitedly. Miaomiao, you can work hard again tomorrow morning? Lin Miaomiao frowned. Why was she always the unlucky one in the end? Okay, but Zixin, you have to say hello to Aunt Yuchu, lest the kitchen robot won't let me in. It's okay, my aunt said you can go to the kitchen anytime you like. She has already told those intelligent robots, Yu Zixin said with a smile, but to be on the safe side, he still sent a text message to his aunt. Not long after, Aunt Yu replied, agreeing to their request. However, upon hearing they were going on a picnic, she strongly urged them to join. Lin Miaomiao didn't mind. We're all going to cook for a few of us anyway, so making an extra portion won't hurt. Feng Licken, Liu Kaoyer, and Zhu Chen agreed. It's more fun with more people. Let's get Jin Bapi and go out together. Yu Zixin, however, wasn't happy. Bringing their elders along wouldn't restrict their actions, so he insisted on going with all five. One is my aunt, and the other is my teacher. They can bully us by taking advantage of their status. It's better not to bring them along. He ignored the opinions of Lin Miaomiao and the others and directly texted Yuchu, flatly refusing. They thought the matter was over, but on the morning of the official competition, Yuchu barged in at his nephew's door. If you need anything, ask me for help. If you have something good, just leave me alone. You wish. By the time they gathered at the restaurant, Yu Zixin had a tail he couldn't shake off. Following me to eat is fine, but following me to the bathroom to wash and use the toilet is too much. Yu Zixin was practically devastated. Zhu Chen's face wasn't in good spirits either. He'd been followed all morning, and every time he came out of the bathroom, he'd received so many strange looks that it made him feel terrible. Liu Kaoyer burst into laughter, sarcastically mocking the idiot. You deserve this, you deserve this. He should have agreed to take Aunt Yu along, and that would have been enough. He had to make her suffer before admitting defeat. He was just looking for trouble. Shut up, Yu Zixin gritted his teeth, but had to admit that this time it was indeed his mistake. In the end, Yuchu successfully joined the picnic group. Feng Licken conveniently informed Jin Hao. It didn't matter if he brought one more person or two more people, so he might as well take the initiative to bring them along. Jin Bappy was incredibly destructive, and if he didn't take him along, he would definitely make a scene if he found out later. So, after the participating students left the dawn in teams, Lin Miaomiao and the other 7 also happily started the picnic trip. Chapter 536 Spring Outing. When Jin Hao first received Feng Liken's message, his face was sullen. These little bastards. They teamed up with Old Man Fang to rip me off a couple of days ago, and today they're even worse, not even letting me get a good night's sleep. Although they'd only gone to a food stall, Lin Miaomiao and the others had no qualms about eating at high-end restaurant prices. They had giant lobsters, huge crabs, imperial scallops, and high-quality exotic animal meat, each costing a fortune. That's right, a whole pot of each, 30 centimeters in diameter and 10 centimeters high. They filled the entire table, and the meal cost tens of thousands of credits. The food stall owner was laughing so hard he couldn't see, and Jin Hao was heartbroken, more heartbroken than if he'd just been dumped. With new grudges compounded by old ones, Jin Baopi, completely unable to control his temper, was about to curse the moment the call was connected, but Feng Liken wisely finished her words first. Hearing that they were going on a picnic, Jin Hao smiled instantly. Okay, then I'll give you some face. Remember to prepare more delicious food. I'll go to the restaurant after I'm done. Looking at his messy hair and the wrinkled sleepy clothes, they had no idea what he was busy with. They could only sigh that they were notified a little late and had to wait for people again. Fortunately, eating and playing are attractive, especially for free. In less than 10 minutes, Jin Hao rushed into the restaurant and said to Lin Miaomiao without changing his expression, "Let's go, don't dawdle and waste time." After that, he turned around and walked out again, not even willing to sit for a while. Lin Miaomiao and the others had no choice but to follow him. On the way to the ship's gate, Jin Hao brought up another important matter. Have you packed your lunchboxes? Is there enough to eat? Lin Miaomiao twitched her lips and replied rather helplessly, "Yes, I have. Enough." Inwardly, she was complaining. They were only concerned about the food, but why didn't they ask why everyone was so eager to go on a picnic now? After all, the representatives from the other fleets were already watching the competition in the live broadcast room. Not only Jin Hao, but even Yu Qiu didn't raise the issue, as if they were just on a vacation to Energy Star. After disembarking from the Dawn, the group planned to walk to the other side of the cliff. Their landing site was quite far from the cliff, but the coordinates suggested it was close to the mine. It was unclear which of the 10 teams would be lucky. If they could detect an energy mine, they could dig in it for 10 days or half a month until the end of the competition, and their points would definitely be high. However, the mecha detection system used in the school competition was poor, a decades-old system that had long been obsolete, making it difficult to detect the presence of energy mines. Therefore, finding the deposit would require a deeper understanding of energy mines. When the car reached the edge of the cliff, Lin Miaomiao slowed down. Jin Hao was puzzled. Is this where you're talking about? A picnic on the edge of a bare cliff? What kind of fun is this? It's completely boring, okay? He just hoped that the delicious food made by the little chef would make up for his betrayal. However, the car didn't stop at the edge of the cliff, but flew to the bottom. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you going down the cliff for no reason? Jin Hao yelled unhappily. I heard that there are piles of bones at the bottom of those cliffs. I don't like to see that. Lin Miaomiao couldn't help it. Teacher Jin, can you be quiet? I promise the scenery below is definitely better than up there. Everyone who drove the car said so. Jin Hao could only swallow his protest and grievance and muttered softly, "This is too outrageous." He turned his back on the teacher as soon as he left the school. I'd better not be a teacher. What if I teach a bunch of ungrateful people? His muttering was not loud, but the car was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Of course, everyone heard his complaints clearly, but no one took it seriously. Only Yu Qiu glanced at his nephew with sympathy. With such an unreliable teacher, it was no wonder that his nephew was led astray. He was obviously a caring and thoughtful child when he was young. At the bottom of the cliff, Jin Hao's complaints faded, and he gazed at the vibrant flowers and greenery in near amazement. The scenery here is quite nice. If we had a boat, we could even go boating in the pool. Yu Zixin pulled out a small inflatable kayak and handed it to him. Take it and play with it. It's a little small, but it'll barely fit you. Jin Hao's eyes lit up, and he reached out to take the kayak and the small inflator. He quickly inflated it, and after checking the size, he decided it was still functional, albeit a little small. Then Yu blurted out, "Zin, you actually still have this? I remember it was a birthday present for you when you were 3. Oh, everyone suddenly realized. They hadn't realized Yu Zixin was so nostalgic, even preserving his childhood toys so well. Jin Hao, however, felt uncomfortable. Giving a 3-year-old's toys to him, was that little jerk trying to make fun of him? It was neither possible to use it now, nor would I feel willing to not use it. It was a rare sight to see such a clear little pool, so how could I not go kayaking and take some photos to show off? Finally, he made up his mind, threw the kayak into the pool, and jumped on with his eyes closed. Then, the kayak flipped over. Ha ha. Ha ha ha, Liu Kaoyer laughed wildly, holding her stomach, with no intention of respecting her teacher at all. It's quite fun to see a drowned chicken so early in the morning. Jin Hao swam ashore with a dark face, shook off the water on his body, grabbed Liu Kaoyer who was rolling on the ground with laughter, and threw her into the pool amid her screams. After that, he clapped his hands and said, "This naughty child deserves a lesson." Lin Miaomiao shook her head. No wonder everyone didn't respect him. With a mind smaller than a needle tip and a temper more impulsive than a child, it was impossible for people to respect him. "Let's go sit on the other side," Fang Licken whispered. "Let these two soaked rats mess around here." Liu Kaoyer wasn't one to take a loss. She'd definitely fight back if thrown into the water. Another fierce fight was likely, and Fang Licken, who preferred peace and quiet, naturally didn't want to get involved. "Okay," Lin Miaomiao nodded, and they circled around to the other side of the pool. Seeing this, Yu followed. They spread a small 2-meter square blanket on the ground, and then took in a plate of spiced peanuts, caramelized melon seeds, yogurt candies, and a few bottles of juice. The 3 of them sat by the pool, enjoying the scenery and chatting. Although they had met Yu a few times, they weren't very familiar with him, so their conversation was rather bland, revolving around life in the fleet. After graduating from the Milulan 2nd Military Academy, Yu didn't join the military fleet, but instead joined the school's Dawn fleet. While quite large, it wasn't as disciplined as the military fleet. After hearing Shen Yu's training schedule, Yu was very thankful. "Fortunately, I didn't join the Jinghong fleet of the Central Corps at that time, otherwise I would probably be under control now." Lin Miaomiao was surprised. "And you wanted to join Jinghong before?" "Yes." Yu's face was full of unbearable memories. "At that time, the male god senior went to Jinghong, and I wanted to go too. Unfortunately, when I applied for the university, I found out that the guy was already taken, and his girlfriend was actually my old rival, and you asked the representative of the Jinghong fleet to tear up her application form on the spot. The other fleets thought that this girl changed her mind in a few seconds and was not a good person, so they listed her as those who would be rejected." Chapter 537, Savage Antu. "Tear it up on the spot." Lin Miaomiao's eyes widened, looking at Antu with almost admiration. How deep must her hatred be? She actually embarrassed a fleet on the spot. No wonder other fleets didn't dare to take her in. A small temple can't accommodate a big Buddha. That's nothing. If I hadn't made a prompt decision to let them tear up the application form, I would have been so frustrated to be in the same fleet with that pair of dogs and bitches. Yu was very angry when she thought of that scene. She was not a good-tempered person. To put it bluntly, she couldn't tolerate any grain of sand in her eyes. "Well, I have a question." Liu Kaoyer popped her head out, all wet. "Did you say that senior was your idol? Why did he instantly become your enemy when he was with your rival?" "What idol? He's just a psychopath," Yu said indignantly. "I must have been blind to fall for him. If I meet him again, I'll definitely beat him up so badly that he can't take care of himself." Lin Miaomiao frowned. This grudge seemed quite serious, so serious that he was beating someone to the point of paralysis. But her curiosity was piqued, and she was screaming for it. Unfortunately, Aunt Yu was already immersed in her memories and had no time to satisfy her curiosity. Zhu Chen's face darkened. He stepped forward, grabbed Yu Zixin, and turned him around. "Then take your time to vent your anger. I don't think we should go out today. Let's get back to business." Lin Miaomiao, Fang Licken, and Liu Kaoyer also stood up. They were close friends and were bound to stick together. "Take your time, Aunt Yu. Have fun," Lin Miaomiao said coldly. Even as an elder, one shouldn't take out their anger on the younger ones. Ozin's face had just been distorted with pain, which showed how ruthless Aunt Yu had been. It was too much for them to bear to watch. Jin Hao, who was lying nearby drying his wet clothes, also got up when he saw this. Wait for me. Since you brought me out, don't think you'll leave me here alone. What about the picnic they had agreed on? Why were they already arguing after just a few minutes? Lin Miaomiao and the other four left immediately, even Jin Hao hurriedly following, leaving Yu Chu standing there, a little overwhelmed, as she had never encountered such a situation before. Did she just hit the younger one a few times, not really hard? Were they making a fuss about nothing, or was she really wrong? It wasn't until the car was off the cliff that Xu Zixin recovered from the pain. Seeing everyone's gloomy faces and unhappy expressions, he felt warm in his heart. Hey, cheer up, it's just a few punches, the pain will pass. Yu Zixin smiled brightly. She has been like this since she was a child, and we brothers are used to it. How can we get used to it? Liu Caoyer's face was wrinkled. What family's elders take it out on the younger ones when they are unhappy? It's too shameless. Yu Zixin shrugged. There's nothing we can do. She is the old man's youngest daughter and she is talented. She has been spoiled since she was a child. Fortunately, she has learned to restrain herself after growing up. In the past, it was not something that could be solved by a few punches. Sometimes she was in such a bad mood that it was not impossible for her to beat us into the repair chamber. No way. Liu Caoyer couldn't believe it, and couldn't help asking the question in her heart. She is not your biological aunt, right? Everyone agreed, but Yu Zixin smiled bitterly. It's a pity that she is your biological aunt. This time, there were outsiders here, so she was merciful. There are so many of us, how could we let you be beaten all the time? Lin Miaomiao said unhappily. I didn't react at first, so I didn't stop it. It's no use reacting. She has learned Sanda and Taekwondo. Even if we attack her together, we can't beat her alone. Yu Zixin was actually a little annoyed. He had also learned Sanda and Taekwondo for more than 10 years. He thought he was pretty good at it, but when he met Antu, he had no power to fight back. This was probably what his grandfather called talent. Antu had excellent bones and was a genius in martial arts. If she hadn't been unwilling, Grandpa Yu would have wanted her to stay at home and take over the Yu family in the future. She's so tough. So haven't you brothers been beaten by her since you were young? Liu Caoyer looked at him sympathetically. Fortunately, my family doesn't have such a tough and unreasonable elder, otherwise I would definitely run away from home. Ho ha ho ha. Liu Caoyer's words made everyone laugh, and the atmosphere was not as serious as before. Even Zhu Chen, who was blaming himself, softened his expression. Jin Hao seized the opportunity to chime in. Are we really going back now? We haven't had our picnic yet. Going back now would be a big mistake. Why don't we find another place to continue? Everyone rolled their eyes at him. It was so late, and he was still thinking about eating. But it was a real problem. He couldn't have come all this way for nothing. Lin Miaomiao thought for a moment and suggested, let's go to the waterfall. It's a little cold, but the scenery is much better than down at the bottom of the cliff. No one wanted to go back, so the idea was quickly accepted, and the car turned back towards the waterfall. The reason they hadn't chosen to come here in the first place was simply because it was too cold. It was as if all the cold air from Energy Star had gathered here. Everyone had shed their light military uniforms and donned down jackets and cotton pants. Liu Caoyer and Jin Hao's clothes were still soaking wet, soaking a large area of the car seat. Fortunately, there was a small partition door in the back seat, so they both changed their wet clothes and used the energy blower to dry the seats. No one knew what was going on. The water temperature at the waterfall was already around -10 degrees Celsius, but there was no sign of freezing. After wandering around for a while, they didn't want to continue because it was too cold. Let's not have a picnic here. The food will freeze as soon as we take it out, Liu Caoyer said, her teeth chattering from the cold. It wasn't this cold last time. It's only been a short time. Even my down jacket won't work. Lin Miaomiao's face was frozen purple. Let's go back. I'm afraid we can't have a picnic today. If we stay any longer, I think I'll have a fever tonight. The others nodded, and Lin Miaomiao took out a flying car. Everyone rushed to get on. Finally, I'm alive, Liu Caoyer sighed. I always feel like I'm so unlucky today. Fang Licken nodded silently. This was what Miaomiao meant by coming with high hopes, but leaving with disappointment. Chapter 538 Lucian Team. The picnic fell through, and everyone returned to the dawn in frustration. Under numerous hostile glances, they dejectedly entered the live surveillance room and found a seat in the last row. Once everyone's attention had returned to the surrounding monitors, Shi Aokian tiptoed over to sit in the row in front of Lin Miaomiao. Turning back, he whispered, "Where were you guys? It's almost 11 o'clock, he couldn't have stayed in bed so late. After a year in the fleet, he couldn't have developed a good sleep schedule." Lin Miaomiao said nothing, feigning interest in the footage on the monitors, making no attempt to acknowledge him. Shi Aokian's face darkened. It had been a year, and it seemed Miaomiao still had no intention of forgiving him. He smiled self-deprecatingly and turned to Yu Zixin, who was sitting diagonally behind him. "Zin? What's wrong? Are you in a bad mood, or not feeling well?" "Nothing," Yu Zixin said listlessly. "I just didn't sleep well last night." "Oh," Shi Aokian said nothing more, and turned his gaze to the screen, where several mechas were digging caves. "What the hell, digging a hole for no reason? They have nowhere to live, so they're going to dig a hole to make a nest." Liu Kaoyer stared at the movements of the mechas with interest. "I think mechas should be equipped with a shovel or hoe. It's not easy to dig with these swords. Mechas are used for fighting, not for digging caves." Shi Aokian shook his head disapprovingly. "These people don't compete properly, but use mechas to do stupid things, wasting time and energy." Lin Miaomiao sneered. "You are not one of them. How do you know they are wasting time? Maybe they have a great discovery." "Impossible. What could be in the soil? We should go explore the woods more and see if there are any rare plants or animals." "No, this planet doesn't have the things you described." Shi Aokian frowned. "Are you sure? Although this planet is small, it is an independent planet. No ancient ruins have been found, so it must have been uninhabited in the past. With such a good environment, it should have spawned some rare plants and animals." According to common sense, his idea was correct. Unfortunately, he didn't understand the specific situation here, let alone know that people lived here in the past. However, they didn't build houses, but lived in caves and underground palaces. "Of course," Liu Kaoyer said unhappily, "we were here a few months ago, so we know exactly what's on this planet." "Why would I lie to you?" "I see. No wonder Miaomiao is so sure," Shi Aokian said embarrassedly. But this gave him more questions. "So, this planet doesn't have anything good? Then why did the school choose it as a competition venue? And what can the contestants use to earn points?" "Don't ask me, I don't know either," Lin Miaomiao said with a dull face. "If you want to know the answer, you have to ask the school leaders." Shi Aokian couldn't help but clench his fists. The feeling of hitting a wall again and again was very uncomfortable. It made him feel very bad, and he didn't want to put on a cold shoulder again. After all, they were good brothers and friends. Yu Zixin looked up at him and pretended to help him out. "What's the name of this planet? I vaguely heard of the name. It seemed to be an energy planet." Shi Aokian suddenly understood. Could this planet possibly have an energy mine? His voice was barely controlled due to his shock. And everyone in the monitoring room looked up, followed by a murmur. This planet hadn't been properly named, simply called the Energy Star. No one paid much attention at first, but after hearing Shi Aokian's stunned words, everyone was stunned. The fact that the Maryland 2nd Military Academy had borrowed the Energy Star for the tryouts showed its reputation was well deserved. Energy mines are extremely valuable, and if they weren't properly protected and stolen, the loss would be enormous. So, these people heard the planet's name and knew there were energy mines, so they decided to dig the mountain to see if they could find any. If not, they'd have a temporary shelter. After explaining everything in detail, Yu Zixin ignored him. He'd gone out for nothing, not even getting a good meal, but getting beaten up for a joke. It really was a bad year. Just as Yu Zixin had said, the mechas on the screen dug the cave but found they hadn't found what they were looking for, so they tidied up the walls and used it as a makeshift campsite. 2 mechas headed out of the cave, 2 guarded the entrance, and the hatches of the other 6 opened. The occupants disembarked, wandered around for a moment, exchanged a few words, and finally found a place to sit. What are they trying to do? Shouldn't they hurry and find what they're looking for? Aren't they afraid of falling behind? Someone asked curiously. Not all the representatives had carefully followed the rules of the competition, they were simply there to recruit. While performance in the competition would earn these students extra points, their regular grades were also important, so they didn't have time to dwell on the details. No one needed to speak up, because soon the 2 mechas that had left returned to the cave, carrying large bundles of grass and several thick wooden planks. A blue mech placed wooden planks side by side against the inner wall of the cave, forming a wide, wooden bed. Another mech tossed grass onto the bed, and then the 2 mechas left the cave again. The 6 people resting in the cave then stood up and went to the bedside, spreading the large bundles of grass evenly and thickly. One person even sat on it tentatively for a moment, nodding with satisfaction. Setting up camp right now? This team is really ambitious, one representative scoffed, believing that those who indulged in such pleasures were unworthy of being considered Federation soldiers. Many representatives agreed. Some even checked the numbers of all the team members and wrote their names down in their address books, intending to eliminate them if they encountered them at the volunteer application meeting. Liu Kao scoffed and was about to express her opinion, but Feng Liqin, who was standing beside her, covered her mouth with her hand. Feng Liqin leaned close to her ear and lowered her voice to scold her, "Just keep your thoughts to yourself. If they don't accept us, it's just a good deal for us." Liu Kao, who had been struggling, calmed down, staring at the screen with sparkling eyes. If the other fleets didn't accept them, they would definitely be the big winners. Thinking about the promises made by the captains before they left, that the more new recruits they recruited, the bigger the rewards, her eyes turned into crescents. Perhaps they were too disappointed with this team. Most of the representatives sitting here moved to watch other teams. Lin Miaomiao was too lazy to change. Today was the first day, and this wilderness survival competition would last for half a month, so there was plenty of time to observe other teams. She glanced at the bottom right of the screen, where 4 words were displayed: Luotian Team. Chapter 539 The Power of Foodies. Luotian Squad. Lin Miaomiao muttered softly several times, "This name sounds a bit narcissistic. I wonder who came up with it." "Miaomiao, what are you talking about?" Liu Kao leaned over. "Nothing." Lin Miaomiao pulled the corner of her mouth and pushed her away, casually glancing at the screen and mumbling. They brought pots and seemed to be preparing lunch. During the time she was distracted, the Luotian squad had already placed several large wooden stakes in the center of the cave, on which were placed energy stoves and pots. There were also several rough wooden basins filled with clean water next to them. 2 female team members were already washing wild vegetables and exotic beast meat. "Hey, that seems to be the meat of the Luo beast," Liu Kao drooled. "This kind of meat is the most tender and delicious. It's even better when made into steaks and fried." Lin Miaomiao frowned. "You're drooling while people are still washing it. If they have cooked it, you will rush over to grab it." Feng Liqin couldn't help but joked, "Kao, if you go out now, you might be able to get 2 pieces of meat to satisfy your craving." "Ha ha ha." The gloom on Yu Zixin's face was swept away, and he laughed and squeezed. "You are worthy of being the famous Liu the foodie in the garrison, because Liu Kao and Liu Yifei are both authentic foodies. Everyone divided them into big foodies and small foodies in order to distinguish them. It's a pity that Liu Yifei is older but younger in seniority, so he missed the title of big foodie." Liu Kao pouted in displeasure. "You just like to bully me." She wanted to ignore these troublemakers, but she was also thinking about the food in Lin Miaomiao's space button. "They've started cooking. Shouldn't we go to the restaurant too? Will the food in Miaomiao's space get cold?" Everyone was amused. This was truly a foodie with a deep-rooted spirit. Even when they teamed up to bully her, she remained steadfast, obsessed with food. "Don't worry, it won't get cold in the refrigerator," Lin Miaomiao said expressionlessly. "I think I'd save it for a midnight snack. I can eat it all for several days." "No way, Miaomiao, you're so heartless that you want to eat all the food for yourself." Liu Kao was shocked. Yu Zixin also lost his composure. "You can make it later if you want a midnight snack. Don't be so selfish." "I can't help it. I don't want to go into the kitchen of the Dawn for the next while," Lin Miaomiao said nonchalantly. "I don't deserve Aunt Yu's favor." To be more precise, he didn't even want to. She didn't want to have anything to do with Yu Chu because she treated her good friend like that. Yu Zixin looked at her with emotion. "Actually, there's no need to be like this. She's just used to her family giving in to her. She doesn't have any bad intentions and she wouldn't treat others like this, but I'm still unhappy. The food on the ship isn't bad either. I won't ask her for help again." Lin Miaomiao had made up her mind. Zhu Chen also agreed. "It's not like you haven't eaten food made by robots before. If I had known your aunt had such a temper, I would never let you contact her on your own initiative." Even the foodie Liu Kao had no objection. "I'm easy to feed. As long as I'm not hungry, it's fine. Besides, Miaomiao brought cooking utensils with her. If she's really hungry, she can leave the Dawn and find a cave to cook." Yu Zixin was convinced. It didn't seem worth it to contact the moody aunt on her own initiative just to go to the kitchen to cook a few meals. In the cave, lunch for the Luotian team had already been cooked. Large pieces of luoluo beast meat were mixed with wild vegetables and cooked in a pot. A little salt was added and it was done. It required no technical skills at all. 10 people sat around a tree stump and shared the lunch using rough wooden bowls. Liu Gaoyer, with her mouth watering, was no longer greedy. This cooking skill is a waste of the luoluo beast meat. It's better to give it to Miaomiao to make boiled pork slices. Or maybe we can go hunt a few luoluo beasts someday. Lin Miaomiao rolled her eyes at her. You wish. You really treat me as a cook? How could that be? Liu Gaoyer pointed at her embarrassedly. I just feel so happy to have a chef friend. I can enjoy delicious food often. You still mean to treat me as a cook? If I weren't a cook, you would be unhappy. No, I definitely don't do that. It's time to eat. Everyone should leave. Fang Licken gently interrupted their wrestling. Gaoyer is the same. If you like to eat, don't keep staring at Miaomiao. Cooking is hard work. I don't. Liu Gaoyer felt very wronged. She rarely asked Miaomiao to cook a big meal. Only once or twice a month, or 4 or 5 times? Anyway, it shouldn't be more than 10 times. Good friends should share with each other. Miaomiao is so stingy. Lin Miaomiao didn't care about her excuses, and had no idea what she was thinking. She just turned around and looked around, noticing that most of the representatives had indeed left. She looked up at the giant electronic clock on the ceiling and said, "It's almost 12 o'clock. No wonder they're all gone. Let's go eat," Zhu Chen said, pulling Yu Zixin to his feet. The 6 of them went out again and slowly walked towards the restaurant. By then, quite a few people were already seated. Lin Miaomiao pretended to go to the window to get food, but Liu Gaoyer dragged her to an empty table and forcefully forced her to sit. She sat down opposite him, her hands on her cheeks, and said eagerly, "Miaomiao, please get the food out." "Ahem," Lin Miaomiao said seriously, suppressing a smile. "I told you to save that for midnight snack. Please, have mercy on me. The food is already prepared. How can I not eat it? Please, Gaoyer, you're not doing it right. You're scaring me." Lin Miaomiao stroked her hard and pretended to be frightened. "Are you going to take it or not? If not, we're breaking up today." Liu, the foodie, was completely willing to go all out for the food. She acted cute, then pitiful, and when that didn't work, she resorted to threats. It must be said, she was quite versatile. Under her powerful verbal assault, Lin Miaomiao couldn't hold back any longer. With a sigh and a shake of her head, she pulled out the food container. Just as she opened the lid to take the food out, Liu Gaoyer snatched the container away. "Miaomiao, take a break. I'll do it." "You don't have to," Liu Gaoyer said flatteringly, deftly removing the food from the container one by one. "Oh, when did Liu the foodie become so diligent?" Yu Zixin couldn't believe his eyes. Could it be that someone switched the food? "What do you want to say with such sarcasm?" Liu Gaoyer curled her lips. "Don't frame me. I've always been very diligent." "Really?" Yu Zixin snorted and laughed. "The question is who believes it, believe it or not." "Don't disturb me while I'm working." Liu Gaoyer glared at him and ignored him, but she muttered to herself in her heart that she couldn't get angry in front of delicious food, and would get back at him in 2 days. Lin Miaomiao said coldly, "I believe it. In order to prevent me from hiding most of the dishes, Gaoyer will definitely be very diligent." Liu Gaoyer's face suddenly burst into tears. "Miaomiao, what nonsense is she talking about? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 540, Family Members Turn Against Each Other. A harmonious lunch began. Liu Gaoyer's chopsticks swished through the dozen or so dishes, leaving only a glimpse of their after-images before realizing her bowl was already half full. "Gaoyer, you're being disrespectful," Yu Zixin exclaimed, furious. Liu Gaoyer leered at him and replied, seemingly asking for a beating, "These days, the food in your own bowl is the safest." Yu Zixin bared his teeth at her and, following suit, began filing his own bowl. A fight ensued between the two. "Stop it," Fang Licken shouted, frowning. "If you don't stop, I'll be rude." "Licken, you're saying such harsh words." Liu Gaoyer's eyes widened. "I can't believe my ears. No, I have to do something to see if this is just a dream." As she spoke, Her movements to pick up the food became more ferocious, as if she wanted to put all the food into her own bowl. Feng Liken's face darkened instantly. She grabbed her chopsticks in one hand and the plate with the other, pouring food directly into her bowl. In a few seconds, she filled it up completely. Then, as if nothing had happened, she moved her bowl to the side and dug into her meal. Liu Kaoyer and Yu Zixin gaped in disbelief. Liken would actually pick up plates and toss away food. Did the sun rise from the west today? Lin Miaomiao, Zhu Chen, and Jin Hao, who had been eating in silence the entire time, paused for a moment, quickly helping themselves to enough food, and waited for the stunned two to recover. Ah! A mournful cry echoed throughout the restaurant. Liu Kaoyer glanced at the nearly empty plate, then at the mountain of food in Feng Liken's bowl. She felt as if the sky was falling. Picking up plates and tossing away food, was this still the gentle and generous Liken? And Miaomiao and Zhu Chen, they had taken advantage of the situation, leaving only a few leaves on their plates. How could she even eat? You guys, she pointed at the three people across from her with a trembling hand. Are you going to kill me? Feng Liken smiled gently. I warned you long ago. It was you who stopped, giving me the opportunity to do it, Liu Kaoyer screamed again. A round-headed, intelligent robot suddenly appeared in front of her. No noise allowed in the restaurant. First offense, 1 warning. Please leave immediately and not be allowed back for 2 hours, Liu Kaoyer burst into tears. I was just surprised. I didn't mean to make noise. Can you please be flexible? I promise I won't do it again. Sorry, your request is invalid, the robot replied in a serious tone. The punishment will be enforced. Then, Liu Kaoyer was forcibly dragged out of the restaurant by the robot. Everyone, what bad luck. After being dragged away, Liu Kaoyer wandered around the restaurant entrance for a while, noticing that her few unscrupulous friends hadn't followed her out. She was immediately enraged, stamped her feet, and returned to her room in disgrace. After she left, Yu Zixin finally couldn't help but laugh. That girl is so unlucky. Let's see if she dares to scream again next time. Hurry up and eat. I think you'll be in big trouble soon, Lin Miaomiao said coldly. PFFT, stop being such a pessimist. Yu Zixin's face darkened, and he dared not nag Liu Kaoyer anymore, digging into his food. Unfortunately, this meal was destined to be a restless one. Zin, Yu approached with a stern face. You just abandoned your elders and ran away like that. Do you have any manners? Left at the bottom of the cliff, Yu initially reflected on her behavior. Her nephew was already grown up, and she was still beating him up like he did when he was little, and doing it in front of his friends seemed a bit excessive. But when she realized she had forgotten her space button and had no flying car or mecha, she couldn't get back to the dawn. Her mood soured. To make matters worse, the cliffs were a bit far from the dawn, and she hadn't noticed them when she'd arrived by air. After she'd called someone to pick her up, she'd been sitting at the bottom of the cliff for over half an hour, fuming so much that she'd completely forgotten the little reflection she'd just had. Then she thought of Yu Zixin again. If he hadn't taken her out and then thrown her off in a fit of rage, how could she have waited there alone for so long? So, after hearing that the representatives had gone to the restaurant for dinner, Yu hurried over, wanting to teach her disobedient nephew a lesson. But she hadn't anticipated that Yu Zixin was no longer the child she'd let on without fighting back. Hearing his aunt's accusation, the smile on Yu Zixin's face froze immediately. He put down his chopsticks, looked up at her, and said calmly, when the elders are unhappy, they beat and scold the younger ones to vent their anger. Do such people deserve respect? The gossipers who had been looking at Yu Zixin with strange eyes exclaimed and instantly focused their attention on Yu Chu, who was abusing the younger generation. Their eyes were full of surprise, as if they were laughing at her for being a vicious elder. Yu Chu, who had never been treated like this, panicked, and his voice became a little sharp. I just hit you a few times as a joke. Is there any need to make such a serious statement? I think you're just trying to ruin my reputation by grabbing this little thing. Joke. Zhu Chen couldn't listen any longer. He didn't want to intervene. Yu Zixin was also a man with strong self-esteem and didn't want to show weakness in front of him, but Yu Chu's words were really too much. I never knew that hitting someone could be called a joke. Zhu Chen pulled the man up, lifted his clothes to expose his belly, pointed to the fist-sized bruises on it and said, this is what you called a joke. It's bruised, can it still be considered a joke? Lin Miaomiao also stood up and sneered, you hit him so hard, are you still worthy of being an elder? Ashen is not your nephew, he is the son of your enemy, you've heard it before. She always treats her brothers, sisters, and nephews as punching bags. When she's in a bad mood, she even beats people into the hospital, Fang Licken added slowly. Who can blame her for her talent? She's already a level 6 mecha master before she's 40, I had him for a reason. Yuchu clenched his fists, suppressing the urge to take action, and said calmly as much as possible, if he hadn't mocked his elders, I wouldn't have punished him. Oh, what a good punishment. Didn't you just say it was a joke? Jin Hao said with a grin. Captain, you change your face faster than turning the pages of a book. Most of the people dining in the restaurant were representatives of various fleets. They didn't know Yuchu's identity at first, but now that they know, their curious eyes suddenly turned into contempt. As a captain, he actually abused his nephew. There is no one on the Dawn who can be qualified for the position of captain. The more radical ones even said, change the captain quickly. Anyone who abuses my nephew has no character at all. Don't let the military academy's affiliated fleet become a mess. That's right. What's wrong with being talented? Does being talented mean you can take it out on anyone? Seeing that the situation was not good, Yuchu dared not stay in the restaurant any longer. Before fleeing, she bit her lip and said to Jin Hao, Teacher Jin, you are so nice. I will have a good talk with Yizi about you when I have time. Chapter 541 Childish Revenge. What does she mean by this? Jin Hao glared. You did something wrong and yet you threaten me. Yu Zixin looked at him apologetically. I'm sorry, Teacher Jin, it's all my fault. After hesitating for a while, he said, why don't you send a video message to your girlfriend to explain? My aunt is definitely not in the mood to look for her right now. Of course your aunt is not in the mood to look for her. I'm afraid she has gone to complain to your dad or your grandpa. Jin Hao laughed. Okay, I'll go find Xiaoyi and talk to her. I can't let her get the upper hand. Okay, I guess my dad's video message will catch up soon. Yu Zixin shrugged helplessly. This is the first time I've shown dissatisfaction after being beaten. She will definitely say that I'm disrespectful to my elders. Zhu Chen patted his hand and comforted him. Let her go. No matter what, I'm here with you. Your family has spoiled her. It's normal to have such a result. Lin Miaomiao was in no mood to eat. She cleaned up the empty dishes and put them into the space button, and asked the others, the food is cold. Do you still want to eat? How can I have the mood to eat? Let's go back to my room and rest for a while. Fang Licken sighed and helped to clean up. By the way, aren't you going to wash the dishes? Lin Miaomiao shook her head. No, what happened just now was too conspicuous. It's uncomfortable to stay here. Let's wash them later. After the four of them finished cleaning up and left the restaurant, they met Liu Kaoyer who was peeking in the corridor. They were immediately surprised. You haven't gone back to your room to rest yet. I haven't eaten enough. How can I sleep? Liu Kaoyer felt very aggrieved. You guys, you spent half a day eating a meal and left me outside alone, Lin Miaomiao said with a wooden face. Actually, I wasn't full either. Liu Kaoyer didn't believe it. How is it possible? You've been dawdling in here for a long time. Do you have an iron stomach? I had a quarrel with Yuchu and fell out. Lin Miaomiao curled her lips. She came before I had eaten a few bites of the meal. The atmosphere in the room was weird after the quarrel. It's better not to eat. Liu Kaoyer, usually a loudmouth, held her own when it came to serious matters. She stopped complaining about being kicked out of the restaurant by the robots and simply smiled. Who won the argument? Don't embarrass me if you lose. Yu Zixin chuckled faintly. We're stronger in numbers. Although the outcome wasn't explicitly stated, Liu Kaoyer could easily guess the outcome and immediately burst into laughter. Arguing really requires a lot of people. One person could crush her with a single word. It's a pity I wasn't there just now. She always considered herself a skilled quarreler. If she had been there, she would have been a huge help. Come on, don't forget we're on the Dawn. Who knows, someone might want to avenge the captain. Fang Licken smiled gently. We have to be prepared for the potential storm. No way. This is the school's affiliated fleet after all. How can they use public property for personal gain? Jin Hao said, a little skeptical. He had always felt that the school's rules were a bit strict. Even changing classes or asking for leave was not allowed without a special reason. The so-called special reasons, aside from illness, were only weddings and funerals. Asking for leave to go out with your girlfriend would be met with a vengeance from the principal. Jin Hao hadn't expected Yuchu to actually do such a thing. The morning after the wilderness survival competition, Lin Miaomiao and the other four, along with Jin Hao, went to breakfast. The robot at the window refused to serve breakfast, repeating, "Sorry, you don't have permission." Jinhao was furious at not even being allowed to have breakfast. He sent Yuqiu a reprimanding text message, urging her to immediately cancel the order and stop using such childish tactics. Jinhao was, after all, a top-tier teacher at the 2nd Military Academy. Even the vice principal gave him some face. Yuqiu might be the captain of a fleet, but that fleet was merely affiliated with his school, not the military. And yet she was trying to manipulate the situation. Did she think he wouldn't complain? Shortly after the text was sent, Yuqiu replied, unashamedly admitting she had done it and refusing to retract her order. Those who cause trouble on the dawn will naturally be punished, even for guests. Jinhao was furious. Although he'd always been called stingy and a money grubber, he'd never lost his temper. This was the first time he had been angered by a woman. Even more infuriating, his girlfriend also texted him, asking him not to argue with Yuqiu. Ye Hating said, "Sister Chu isn't a bad person, she just has a short temper." She explained what you said yesterday, saying she's worried her nephew might learn bad habits. Don't misunderstand her. I don't want you to argue with her. Having already said what he needed to, Jinhao, with a sullen face, told his girlfriend about Yuqiu's retaliation against him. Do I have to endure this? Oh, it's just a meal. It's not a big deal. Just apologize to Sister Chu and everything will be fine. Ye Hating shrugged. If it were anything else, Jinhao might have listened to her, apologized, and let it go, but in this case, he firmly didn't feel the need to apologize. He despised anyone who was harsh with their juniors. He wasn't used to rejecting his girlfriend, though, so he decided to let this morning's incident go and just drink a bottle of nutrient solution. By lunchtime, they still weren't allowed to eat, and even Yuqiu's number was unreachable. She must have been blacklisted, Yu Zixin said. Mine was blocked last night, so what do we do now? Even if we have enough nutrient solution, we can't let her bully us like this, Liu Kaoye pouted. I don't want her to get so carried away, we'll see. If it's just about the meal, we can't go complaining to the principal, Jinhao said, his face grim. I just hope she'll stop. Otherwise, he hadn't complained yet because they were aunt and nephew, and he didn't want to make a scene. But he hadn't expected someone who seemed so cheerful and generous to actually be so unruly. Yu Zixin looked at everyone apologetically. I'm the one who got you into this. Lin Miaomiao walked towards the restaurant exit with an expressionless face. As she passed Yu Zixin, she patted him lightly. Let's go out hunting for food. Let's get some Liao beasts for barbecue. Barbecue Liao beasts. Liu Kaoye immediately perked up. Where are we going? The others watched eagerly, even the gossipers who were following their movements curiously. Of course, on Energy Star. Lin Miaomiao rolled her eyes. We're not students of the 2nd Military Academy, but recruiting representatives for Shenyu. The academy doesn't provide meals. So we'll have to go out and kill a few exotic beasts ourselves. Liu Kaoye's eyes lit up. This was a great idea. It would allow them to eat the Liao beast meat she had been craving, and it would also be a challenge to Yuqiu. Everyone knew that these live exotic beasts were captured by the Dawn Fleet with great effort. If the participating students didn't kill them, they would end up in their mouths. Yuqiu would be furious if he knew. Chapter 542 Hunting Wild Food. Lin Miaomiao's suggestion was unanimously approved by everyone, and the 6 of them happily disembarked the Dawn and headed to where the Luoluo beasts had been released. They slaughtered 4 or 5 before stopping. There were over 100 Luoluo beasts here, and since they were only 2nd-level exotic beasts, they weren't difficult to deal with. If they weren't for the competition, Liu Kaoye would have wanted to slaughter them all. Each one weighed about 200 or 300 kilograms, and their harvest was only a little over 1,000 kilograms, which wouldn't last long. It would be nice if we could slaughter them all and bring them back to the fleet for a snack, Lin Miaomiao said, also feeling it was a pity. Luoluo beasts have tender meat and live in groups, but they are rare in the Jilin Star region. They must have been caught from other star regions. They can be sold online. But Lin Miaomiao has plenty of exotic beast meat in her space button, so why would she waste money on buying them? That's not that difficult. We're not even allowed to eat in the Dawn's dining room anyway. We'll just kill a few more for dinner, Fang Licken said with a smile. I doubt Yuqiu will hear about our foraging for food for a while. They found a sunny spot with water for lunch. After resting on the grass for a while, the 6 returned to the Dawn to continue watching the game. They were greeted with strange looks from the other delegates. It looks like we've all become famous, Liu Kaoyer said nonchalantly. That could be considered a success, right? Lin Miaomiao, with a sullen expression, poured cold water on them. Being famous is a good thing, but we don't know what kind of fame it will be. It might just be infamy. After a few jokes, everyone focused on their screens again. Today, they weren't keeping an eye on Team Lucian, but instead spread out to observe the other teams. Given Shen Yu's situation, Lin Miaomiao didn't believe their status as seniors and the extra meal would buy off many people. So, she wasn't targeting the seemingly exceptional contestants. At least the graduation tour group she was focusing on was rather mediocre. Technically, the graduation tour group was rather unlucky. Among the top 100, there were 17 or 18 level 4 mecha operators, all carefully trained by powerful families, but their team hadn't received a single one. It was composed entirely of level 3 mecha operators. Judging from the team's name, they themselves weren't optimistic about the outcome of the competition, viewing it as a free graduation trip. Fortunately, while they felt they couldn't achieve a high score, they didn't lose heart. While other teams would find caves or build straw huts as temporary campsites, they didn't waste time searching specifically, focusing solely on finding exotic beasts and ores. Yesterday was their first day. After dinner, they returned to the live stream monitoring room. Before going to bed, Lin Miaomiao noticed that they hadn't settled down in a cave or other place. Instead, they had simply found a large, leafy tree, pulled a few bundles of grass and placed them on its branches. They then assigned 2 teammates to patrol the night, and that was it. While the other teams were still busy making breakfast, they had already eaten and drunk their fill, ready to continue their exploration. To conserve energy, they hadn't all been in mechas today. Instead, one mech would lead the way. Another would trail behind, and the rest would proceed on foot, observing the surrounding forest as they went. The tour group didn't dig up rocks to test any rocks they encountered. Instead, they diligently hunted down second and third tier monsters. If they encountered few monsters, one mech would take action while the other protected the non-mech team members. If they encountered many, 2 mechas would work together to hold the monsters back while the others boarded their mechas. While this was a bit less efficient, Lin Miaomiao believed it maximized energy conservation, demonstrating their cleverness. The school captured several thousand second and third level exotic beasts and placed them in the forest, but the number was still too few. The tour group spent most of their time on the road, and it was still quite boring after watching for a long time. Liu Kaoyer, who had originally accompanied her to watch, could no longer bear it. Let's go somewhere else. Other teams are digging in the mountains to find minerals, but their team is taking its time. They're walking all the time and don't seem to be in a hurry. Lin Miaomiao didn't like to join in the fun, so she didn't agree. I think it's good to sit here, Liu Kaoyer pouted. Miaomiao, why are you like this? You're obviously a beautiful girl in the prime of life, but you love quietness like an old man. I could tell you were pretending before, but now it seems to me that you're becoming more and more natural. Feng Licken, who was watching another team not far away, came over and happened to hear this. She couldn't help laughing. The boss ate too much saliva and assimilated her. Haha, that makes sense. Liu Kaoyer was very happy. Miaomiao, you should be more careful and eat less. The boss is such a cold person. I don't want you to be like him. Lin Miaomiao gritted her teeth. Yibingshan and I are the same kind. Everyone calls me a cold goddess. Don't you remember? Don't give me that, Liu Kaoyer retorted. I clearly remember you were pretending, and you were soon exposed. Feng Licken nodded in agreement. That's right. After you were exposed, you've turned into a madcap idiot. Lin Miaomiao, it's tough, but don't argue. These two are looking for a fight. It feels like we can't have a good chat anymore. Let's just let her be a pretty girl with a blank expression, Lin Miaomiao thought to herself. At dinner, they went to the restaurant as usual and met with a walled-down crowd. After that, they disembarked and headed straight to where the Lolo beasts were being hunted. They killed 4 or 5 more for dinner. Of course, they couldn't finish all that, but Lolo beasts always swarm, so it's easy to kill too many. Instead of a barbecue, they made a hot pot. They cut up dozens of pounds of meat, added kelp, bean sprouts, potatoes, radishes, and other vegetables, and gathered around the pot to simmer. While taking a walk to digest their food after dinner, they ran into several members of the Lucian team. Seeing their uniforms and the fact that Lin Miaomiao had cooked a snack for the contestants the day before the competition, the Lucian team members immediately recognized them. A short-haired girl hesitated for a moment, then came forward to greet them. Good afternoon, Teacher Jin and the seniors. Polite people are likable. Seeing this, Jin Hao smiled and replied, hello. The short-haired girl breathed a sigh of relief. Excuse me, Teacher Jin. Is there anything you need here? Do you need our help? Oh, no. Jin Hao shook his head and said, we came out to eat, and we've finished eating now. Eat? The short-haired girl was confused. Shouldn't they be eating in the restaurant on the ship? Why were they eating outside? There's nothing we can do, Liu Kaoyer sighed pretentiously. Captain, you refused to give us food, so we can only go out to hunt for food. The people in the Luotian team were shocked. How could Captain you do such a thing? Isn't this neglecting the guests? Jin Hao sighed. Stop talking. It's our fault that we offended Captain Yu. He beat his own nephew. Why should we stop him? It turned out that Captain Yu was such a vicious person. He beat his own nephew and didn't let anyone stop him. The truth about the Luotian team was revealed. Chapter 543, making a big deal out of a small matter. To avoid accusations that the Luotian team was cheating by contacting them, Jin Hao chatted briefly with a short-haired girl before saying goodbye. On the way back, Yu Zixin stared at Jin Hao for a long time, as if he was about to say something but couldn't bring himself to speak. When Jin Hao waited for a long time without a word, he grew impatient. What do you want to say? Just say it. Why are you dithering? The hesitation on Yu Zixin's face disappeared instantly, and he said with a smile, I just think what Teacher Jin said just now is great. I want to praise her, but I'm afraid others will think I'm disrespectful to my elders. Come on, Liu Kaoyer scoffed. She's not here, how could anyone know? Do you think we'd tell on her? How could that be? Yu Zixin hurriedly shook his head in denial. We're best friends. How could I doubt it? Liu Kaoyer was finally satisfied. As long as you know. Back on the dawn, they were about to go to the monitoring room when Yu Chu rushed over and stopped them. What do you mean? Yu Chu said sternly. You actually went off to hunt exotic beasts to eat? Don't you know those beasts were painstakingly captured by our fleet to feed the participating students? I know, Jin Hao said lazily. I saw it all when the school assigned the task. Yu Chu was infuriated by his attitude. Even though you knew it, you still hunted them? Aren't you afraid I'll report you to the principal? Go ahead and report it. It's normal for me to go looking for food when I'm hungry. Even if the principal finds out, I'm not afraid, Jin Hao said, curling his lips at her. Then he pushed her aside and stalked off. Goodbye, Captain Yu, Lin Miaomiao said politely. Liu Kaoyer, Feng Licken, and Zuchen followed behind, surrounding Yu Zixin, not even sparing her a glance. Yu Chu clenched his fists and watched them leave with a sullen expression. Why do so many people like to meddle in other people's business? Back in the monitoring room, Shi Aokian came up to them immediately. Teacher Jin, Miaomiao, what's wrong with you? I just saw. He paused in the middle of his words and looked around, as if he couldn't speak. Lin Miaomiao didn't bother to pay attention to him and walked past him inside. Jin Hao nodded at him with a smile. What happened just now? Why don't you explain it clearly? It's the Luo beast. Why did you go to fight that? Shi Aokian said worriedly. That's for the competition between the younger students. This is not a good idea. It's okay, don't worry, Jin Hao replied casually. But, don't say buts, let's go in and watch the game. Yu Zixin interrupted him. This is not our fault, Aokian, don't worry. Shi Aokian didn't believe it, but he was helpless. After all, this matter had nothing to do with him. Even if he worried more, it would be useless if the people involved didn't worry. With a wry smile, he returned to his original seat dejectedly. His good friends had become strangers, so what right did he have to interfere? Less than half an hour into the live studio, Jin Hao received a video message from Fang Dongqing. He looked up at the people around him and saw that they were all watching the game intently. He left the room without disturbing them. People often come and go in the live studio, and Lin Miaomiao didn't pay much attention when Jin Hao left. But when he didn't return after half an hour, she felt something was amiss. Licken, Ashen. Lin Miaomiao said softly, tilting her head. Teacher Jin's been out for quite some time and hasn't come back yet. Feng Licken and Zhu Chen had also noticed and said, let's go out and look for him. Yu Chu discovered the Luo beast thing, so he can't just leave it alone like this. Okay, Lin Miaomiao responded, glancing at Yu Zixin and Liu Kaoyer on the other end. Don't call them, let's go check first. After leaving the live studio, Zhu Chen turned on his communicator to video message Jin Hao. but the connection was broken. This made him even more certain that something was wrong. If it doesn't work, should we go to Teacher Jin's room? Okay. However, as they walked a short distance down the hallway, they saw Jin Hao. At this moment, he was video chatting with Fang Dongqing. The three of them exchanged a glance, hesitant about whether to go over. Jin Hao had his back to them, his video camera pointed backwards. Principal Fang quickly spotted them. Zhu Chen, Lin Miaomiao, and Fang Licken, come over and talk. The three who had been caught could only slowly walk over. Lin Miaomiao raised her paw and said calmly, "Hi, it's been a few days since we last met." "Principal, how are you?" "I'm fine," Fang Dongqing cursed. "Principal, you can't do that," Lin Miaomiao pointed out expressionlessly. "The head of a school should be a role model." "How can you swear?" Fang Licken and Zhu Chen nodded in agreement. "The principal's image must be maintained and must not be damaged." Jin Hao smiled and said, "Oh, don't be so serious. The principal is not usually like this. He's quite familiar with us." This made so much sense that no one knew how to refute it and could only acquiesce. Fang Dongqing wanted to deny it, but he was certainly familiar with the people before him. Not to mention Jin Hao being a teacher, Lin Miaomiao and the others had been causing quite a bit of trouble during their 4 years at university, causing enough disturbances that the principal had to personally meet with them. Just seeing them was a real headache. For example, even though they'd already graduated a year ago and were returning as a recruiting representative, he'd specifically sent Jin Hao to greet them, figuring that as their homeroom teacher, he should be able to rein in these little brats. But things hadn't gone his way. First, Jin Hao was slacking off, causing a dispute over a replacement representative. Then, Yu Zixin had a falling out with his aunt Yu Chu, the captain of the Dawn Fleet. And now, even more outrageous, these people had actually slaughtered and eaten the exotic beasts being used in the competition. Could they just calm down? Fang Dongqing slammed the table, wishing he had Jin Hao's head under his command so he could smack it a few times to vent his anger. He took a deep breath, forced himself to suppress the anger in his heart, and then said, "It's just a small matter. How long are you going to make a fuss? Can't you live in peace with Yu Chu? There's no way. She doesn't give us food. We can't starve to death." Jin Hao sighed, looking at him with sympathetic eyes. "I've told you several times, but you haven't remembered it yet, Principal. Could it be that he has amnesia or Alzheimer's disease?" Fang Dongqing's anger came up again. "Can't you tell me and let me solve it for you? If all else fails, there are still nutrient solutions. Why do you insist on snatching the exotic beasts for the competition?" "No." Jin Hao refused decisively. "If I complain when something happens, I will lose face. As for the nutrient solution, it's too hard to drink." "I can't drink it." "You mean, it's face-saving to steal the exotic beasts for the competition?" "What do you mean by stealing? We are looking for something openly." Chapter 544, The ice thick didn't form in a day. Teacher Jin and Principal Fang were arguing, repeating the same things over and over again. Lin Miaomiao finally understood why Jin Hao had been on a video call for so long. This couldn't go on. They'd probably argue all night and get nowhere. "Stop arguing," Lin Miaomiao pondered for a moment, then forcefully interrupted their conversation. "Don't you think the best solution right now is to get Captain Yu to come and negotiate a solution?" They both looked at her and asked in unison, "How do we negotiate? Who apologizes?" "No one's going to apologize. This time, it wasn't just her fault, we were too." Lin Miaomiao had been thinking about it for a while. She felt like they were also in the wrong, and they couldn't put all the blame on Yu Chu. For example, that day at the bottom of the cliff, they had abandoned Yu Chu. That night, when they were going back to their room to sleep, she overheard that Yu Chu had forgotten his space button, and without his flying car or mecha, he'd spent half an hour waiting at the bottom of the cliff. Last night, in her anger, she hadn't thought too much about it, thinking she deserved to be left waiting there for half an hour for hitting someone. But now she thought, if she was unlucky and a flying monster discovered someone at the bottom of the cliff, what would happen to the defenseless Yu Chu? It was clearly just a small matter, but it had alarmed the principal of the distant Milao Land Star. It could only be said that they were too impulsive. Jin Hao was stunned. Wouldn't it be like he was giving in by doing this? Thinking of his girlfriend who was provoked and angry with him, he felt a little unhappy. "We are not afraid of her." "Nonsense." Fang Dongqing shook his head, and his bald head showed stars of light under the reflection of the light. "It's because you guys are so careless that my hair is falling out day by day, and now I look like this." Liu Kaoyu blinked and smiled ingratiatingly. Principal, you look pretty good now. Take the lights in your house, for example. They are exactly the same as those in other people's houses, but as long as you are here, other people's houses are brighter. Feng Dongqing's face darkened. Why did he feel that this sounded very awkward, but he didn't have the energy to pursue it too much? It was so late. Hurry up and connect Captain Yu's video call. Jin Hao curled his lips. Principal, please pull it. She blocked my communication number a long time ago, and I can't find her. The communication number was blocked, so there was naturally no way to find the person. Feng Dongqing had no choice but to accept his fate and pulled Yu Chu into the multi-party video call. A few seconds later, Yu Chu's pretty face appeared in front of everyone. She was stunned when she saw Jin Hao and others, and then she sneered, "Why, it's not the principal who is looking for me, but you." Without waiting for them to reply, she said, "Don't think that I will plead for you. It's better not to have a nephew who disobeys his elders. I will tell my dad to just treat him as if he doesn't have a grandson like you Zixin in the future." Zhu Chen had just planned to stand aside and wait for the result of the negotiation, but he didn't expect to hear such words. He immediately became angry. "Captain Yu, are you too confident? It's true that you are the old man's most beloved daughter, but Zixin is also his most beloved grandson. Do you think the old man will drive him away for you?" Yu Chu was just angry just now. She knew it was impossible, but she didn't expect to be questioned. She was strong-willed and blurted out, "We'll know if we try it." Lin Miaomiao sighed. It seemed that there was no way to end it peacefully today. As expected, Yu Chu, enraged, ignored Feng Dongqing's request and immediately dragged Grandpa Yu into the multi-person video chat, loudly demanding that he remove Yu Zixin from the family tree. A youngster who disrespects their elders is useless in the family. Zhu Chen, scowling, tried to defend himself, but Lin Miaomiao stopped him. "Grandpa Yu is a reasonable man. He'll definitely make the decision for Ozin." Neither of them had a marriage certificate, and rashly interfering in the Yu family's affairs would only anger Grandpa. It would be better to wait for him to ask. Feng Licken lowered her head and sent a text message. "Shall I call Ozin over? Also, are we sure we want to stand in the hallway and talk to them?" The answer was, of course, no. After Yu Zixin and Liu Kaoyu emerged from the liver stream, they relocated to the dormitory. It was a bit cramped for 6 or 7 people to be crammed into a small room, but they didn't want to leave. Even if they didn't say anything, standing there and cheering them on was nice. There were no stools in the dormitory, so Liu Kaoyu jumped directly to the side of the bed, ready to sit there, but as soon as she sat down, she screamed, Why is it wet? Impossible." Yu Zixin didn't believe it, and quickly stepped forward to touch the sheets, only to find that the mattress pad, sheets and quilt were not wet. "How could it be? It was fine when we went out in the morning, but it is indeed wet now." Liu Kaoyu pouted and said, "How are you going to sleep at night? Come sleep at my place." Zhu Chen said, "Isn't mine wet too?" Yu Zixin nodded, but Lin Miaomiao caught a hint of smugness in Yu Chu's eyes, and immediately had a bad premonition. "Ashin, let's go to your dormitory and take a look," Lin Miaomiao suggested. "I doubt you can sleep in your room tonight, and it's possible that none of us can sleep." Zhu Chen was stunned for a moment, then quickly reacted. "Did Captain Yu do something?" Liu Kaoyu reacted quickly and immediately went out to run to her room. Not long after, she came back panting, "The bedding on my bed is soaked." Feng Licken, who went out with her, also came back with a dark face, and said to Yu Chu on the screen, "It's a pity that you are still the captain, but you can do such a thing." Yu Chu's eyes flashed. "I don't know what you are talking about. Don't throw all the dirty water on me. You know whether you did it or not." Liu Kaoyu said angrily, "I really don't understand how a sinister villain like you can still be the captain of Chengxi, and you are not afraid of leading Chengxi astray, having been inexplicably dragged into so many videos." Mr. Yu's face darkened. He'd assumed it was just a minor disagreement between his youngest daughter and grandson, something he could resolve with a few words of reconciliation and apology. But judging by the current situation, this matter was proving difficult to resolve. Mr. Yu knew perfectly well that Yu Chu, relying on her talent, was somewhat overbearing at home, but his son and grandson tolerated it silently, rarely complaining. He'd assumed it was no big deal, so he'd turned a blind eye. But now, his grandson hadn't spoken in a long while. He must have grown disillusioned with his aunt and no longer cared about her. Had he truly done something wrong? "Killer," said Old Man Yu seriously, "some things are done and it's done. No matter how many lies you tell, it's useless. It's not too late for you to admit it now. Yuchi was silent for a few seconds, and replied nonchalantly, I know, I did it. They were rude to me, and I just punished them a little. A little punishment? Why? With your identity as a captain, Lin Miaomiao sneered, we are not your team members. You have no right to punish us, and you use such underhanded means. Fang Licken said, I will report this to our captain. We came back this time as recruitment representatives, not students from the school. Captain, you did such a thing, so we don't have to be polite to you. Chapter 545 complained. Grandpa Yu's heart sank. He knew his daughter had acted unkindly. If they had negotiated a private settlement, perhaps an apology and some compensation would have been enough. But if Captain Chen Yu became aware of the situation, things would be much more complicated. Losing Captain Cheng Xi's position was a minor issue. Being expelled from the fleet would be a major disaster. A mecha pilot whose fleet didn't even want him would have no future. Looking at his daughter's confident expression, Grandpa Yu was furious and furious. He roared at the top of his lungs, Yuchu, apologize now, Dad. What did you say? Yuchu's eyes widened. You want me to apologize? To them, she pointed a finger at Jinhao and the others, completely unable to accept the harsh reality. Shouldn't they be the ones apologizing to me? Grandpa Yu snarled. You did something wrong yourself, and yet you expect others to apologize? How dare you? I'm not wrong, they're wrong, Yuchu said, still refusing to admit she was wrong. Lin Miaomiao listened impatiently. Okay, since it's our fault, let me report it to our captain first, and see how he punishes us, then you report it. Yuchu snorted. Yi Hongwen has been a teacher here for several years, and he is quite familiar with me. I believe he will not be partial. It would be strange if he is not partial. Hongwen is the most protective of his shortcomings. Jinhao was a little amused. A proud smile bloomed on Yuchu's beautiful face, as if she was sure that she was the one being protected. She said hypocritically, Teacher Jin, you think too much? Weren't you and him good friends at that time? How could you be so unconfident, unless you are the one who thinks too much? Jinhao was too lazy to say anything more to her. He turned to Grandpa Yu and said, Grandpa, you have seen how your daughter treats us. Abuse of power is no trivial matter. She is unwilling to resolve it privately, so we have no choice but to take the right path. After that, he hung up the video call without waiting for Grandpa Yu to answer. At this point, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Liu Kaoyer was quite puzzled. How did Aunt Axon become like this? I remember that Grandpa Yu and my uncle and aunt were all easy to get along with. Actually, Yuchu is quite good at pretending. I used to think she was easy to get along with. How come she suddenly became so unreasonable? Jinhao still has a feeling of unreality. She has always been like this, but she dare not do too much in front of outsiders. The reason you are treated like this time is simply because you and I are good friends. She thinks that for the sake of Grandpa's face, I will not care too much about her and will appease you. Yu Zixin laughed sarcastically. It's a pity she guessed wrong. People's patience is limited. Just like Zhang Keek, she has been oppressed and poisoned by her cousin for so many years, but in the end she still rose up in resistance. She's only able to act so forcefully because she's an elder. Liu Kaoyer gloated. By the time she realizes things are out of her control, it'll probably be too late. Lin Miaomiao silently opened her address book. She'd actually hinted at Yi Hongwen's partiality. Then, let Captain Yu see how he behaved. She'd spent an hour complaining to Yi Hongwen, interrogating Tong Yaoqiu about his relationship with him. Only after he repeatedly denied knowing anyone like that did she finally feel satisfied and ready to end the call. But Yi Hongwen refused to accept it and protested coldly, You haven't contacted me for a few days. Is this just a complaint? Yes, you don't know how much I have suffered these 2 days. Not only am I not given food, but I can't sleep tonight. Lin Miaomiao sighed softly. I can't lie like this. This statement was actually a bit exaggerated, but Yi Hongwen was still heartbroken. I'll ask Yu Qingheng to pick you up. How can this be? We are here to watch the tryouts. How can we recruit new soldiers if we leave now? Lin Miaomiao was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. That's okay. We can just recruit more from other schools, Yi Hongwen said without hesitation. We're short of soldiers, and we can't fill them all from just one school. No, this is our mission, and we must complete it successfully, Lin Miaomiao said angrily. If you really care, then help us with food and accommodations, Yi Hongwen said helplessly. Okay, then be careful. That Yuchu is also a level 6 mecha master. Don't confront her head-on, I know. I don't believe she'd dare attack us on the ship. Lin Miaomiao waved her hand nonchalantly. I'm hanging up. Hurry and find me some sleep. I'm sleepy. These were just minor matters, not worthy of a full-scale fight. Lin Miaomiao found his warning amusing and ignored it. Captain Yi's efficiency was truly astonishing. He had just agreed to help with a sleeping situation, and soon a robot arrived to remove the wet bedding and replace it with dry one. Everyone was delighted, as this represented another victory for them. Only Yuzixin was frightened. My aunt has a very stubborn temper. As long as she doesn't think she is wrong, she will not admit defeat easily. She just said something harsh. How come? It shows that her boss is more powerful. Liu Kaoyer looked proud. I have to go and see if my quilt has been changed. I didn't get a good rest at noon, so I'll go to bed early tonight. I'll go back to bed too. I'm a little tired today. Lin Miaomiao followed calmly. Fighting wits and courage with others is very time-consuming, although she is only responsible for cooking. Feng Likin saw that everyone said they wanted to go to bed, and suddenly felt sleepy. Let's go together. Jin Hao originally wanted to discuss how to continue to fight against Chu Chu tomorrow, but everyone had already run away, so he could only go back to the room to rest helplessly. Lin Miaomiao had just returned to her room, showered, and tucked into bed when she received another video message from Captain Yi. She couldn't help but complain. I told you I was sleepy, and you still sent me a video message? Can't you wait until I wake up? Let's talk for a while before going to sleep, Yi Hongwen said helplessly. It's not even 10 o'clock yet, and you don't want to talk to me, but I'm so sleepy. I don't know what tricks that Chu Chu will pull tomorrow. I need to get enough rest so I won't be too tired to deal with any emergencies. Lin Miaomiao felt her eyelids drooping, and she couldn't even hear what Yi Hongwen said. She only vaguely heard him say he had good news, something about Chu Chu. The next morning, she recalled the video message and sat in bed for a long time, pondering it. Unable to think of the good news, she reluctantly got up and washed. Then Liu Kaoyer knocked on the door. It wasn't until she was sitting in the dining room eating breakfast that she learned that Chu Chu had been suspended for abuse of power. Chapter 546 The Real Reason for Suspension. Really? She's really been suspended? When did it happen? Liu Kaoyer practically leaped with excitement. Anyone who didn't know her would think she had some deep grudge against the suspended officer, and couldn't bear to see them prosper. Yuzixin didn't look particularly happy. It was his aunt who was suspended, so even if he was, he couldn't show it. So, he simply nodded slightly and said, it's true. Last night, my grandfather told me, if Yu Chu hadn't been suspended, leaving the deputy captain in temporary command of the Dawn, they wouldn't have known how to sleep last night. With Aunt Yu's stubborn temper, she wouldn't have let the robots change their sheets. Come to think of it, your aunt has been captain for years, right? Why doesn't she seem very popular? Feng Likin lamented. She's been suspended, but the fleet members seem unfazed. They're not only working as usual, but even smiling during their breaks. Yeah, logically, we're the ones responsible for her suspension, so why are the fleet members so nice to us? Liu Kaoyer was puzzled. It's not just a good attitude, it's even better, Lin Miaomiao muttered silently. The crew of the Dawn hadn't treated them with anything special before, but today, they smiled and nodded as they passed by, as if they had become acquaintances overnight. Could it be that the people in this fleet weren't so convinced of Aunt Yu as their captain? Logically, Yu Chu, a level 6 mecha operator in her 40s, should have high prestige in the Dawn fleet, where there were no other level 6 mecha operators. But the reality was, the fleet's members didn't think much of her. Was it because of her gender, or because she was too arrogant and unreasonable? According to Yuzixin, it was probably the latter. However, she still couldn't understand why Yu Chu was suspended for such trivial matters as denying them meal privileges and ordering robots to wet their blankets. Wasn't that a bit of an overreaction? After a long moment of contemplation, Lin Miaomiao was too lazy to dwell on it. She sipped her preserved egg and lean pork porridge sporadically while listening to Liu Kaoyer and Yuzixin chatter about Yu Chu's suspension. Zin, was this the only thing your grandfather mentioned in the video call last night? Did he plead for your aunt? How could that be? He couldn't have come to me to plead for mercy, Yuzixin mumbled, chewing on a meat bun. Her suspension wasn't just about abuse of power. I heard it's something more serious. She'll be investigated by the school's discipline committee when she gets home. That's serious? I don't know what bad, wrong she did, thinking that Yu Chu was Yuzixin's aunt after all. And even if falling out wouldn't change the fact that they were related, Liu Kaoyer decided to be polite. But being investigated by the discipline committee, the department that oversees teachers' conduct and discipline, wasn't a good thing. It was said that if someone was found guilty after an investigation, they'd be out of school. Of course, this wasn't the worst of it. While being expelled from school was shameful, she could find a smaller school. With Yu Chu's status as a level 6 mecha master, the official fleets wouldn't accept her, but the subsidiary fleets would be eager to take her. The problem was, if the discipline committee's investigation confirmed anything, they would expel her and make a note in her file. This would be uploaded to the Star Network's talent database, and even the fleets with such talent wouldn't accept her. She's your aunt after all. I hope she didn't do anything stupid, Lin Miaomiao said with a dull expression. Yu Zixin scratched his head, twisting his already messy hair into a bird's nest. That shouldn't be the case. She only dares to act so arrogantly at home. She's probably not that bold outside. Did your grandfather explain the reason? Does he believe in that ridiculous abuse of power? He doesn't. He'd rather Auntie just made these minor mistakes, so it won't get out of hand. Yu Zixin couldn't help but sigh, lowering his voice. It's said that the reason for the investigation is that she suppressed the team members and intentionally sabotaged their spiritual advancement, Lin Miaomiao gasped. Physical advancement is more vague. Sometimes, even if you've made a breakthrough, you might not even know it, so no one can sabotage it. But spiritual advancement is different. There are always traces to indicate whether a bottleneck is about to be broken through or whether your spiritual power is about to advance. Especially in the fleet, if you hide a spiritual bottleneck, you can't train casually. You can only report it to the captain or a superior and ask for leave. So, if someone's mental strength hit a plateau and they didn't train, and they didn't come out for a long time after entering the training room again, everyone would know they were about to advance. Wouldn't it be easy to find a way to disrupt it? Blocking someone's advancement was a huge grudge, so few people would do it. Lin Miaomiao was just curious, what level did the person whose advancement was blocked advance to? I think it was from level 5 to level 6, Yu Zixin said uncertainly. Everyone was too exhausted to complain. If this was true, Yu Chu was probably in big trouble. Why would your grandfather tell you all this? Fang Licken suddenly asked. He wouldn't have come to you for no reason. Yu Zixin was silent for a moment, then gave a rather helpless smile. This was discovered by the eldest brother. It's been several years since the incident. Although our Yu family isn't a top-tier family, if no one intervenes, it's not a problem to save one person. Grandpa wanted to use you to plead with the eldest brother, Zhu Chen said. It's a pity you didn't understand. They lived together, and when Grandpa video called him, he didn't avoid him, so Zhu Chen heard the information firsthand. The old man sighed continuously, blaming himself for not raising his daughter well, for spoiling her so much that she did her own thing and always thought the sun revolved around her, which is why she's in trouble now. Yu Zixin only heard his grandfather's remorse and regret, but he didn't realize the deeper meaning behind it. Zhu Chen, however, noticed it, especially the words the old man said before hanging up the video call. If she's lucky enough to escape this, I will definitely keep her in check in the future. There was an unmistakable plea in those words, hoping his grandson would intercede with Captain Yi, who had reported Yu Chu. As long as Yi Hongwen wasn't watching, the Yu family still had the strength to suppress the matter. Unfortunately, Yu Zixin never liked to listen to such beating around the bush. He didn't understand his grandfather's words, and couldn't discern the deeper meaning. In the end, the old man gave up. It would have been fine if the plea was tacitly understood, but speaking it out loud would have been a loss of face, making Yu Chu lose face in front of his nephew. So the old man couldn't point it out, and could only hint and try to get his grandson to understand his meaning. However, he never expected that Yu Zixin didn't understand what he meant and didn't ask Yi Hongwen to plead for his aunt. Zhu Chen did understand, but he chose to play dumb. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 547 Competition Status. With Yu Chu suspended, Lin Miaomiao and the others' lives returned to their former serenity. Every day, they went to watch the competition, ate, and slept. This routine quickly wore on for days. The senior graduating students' competition was approaching a critical stage. With only a limited number of alien beasts left, Once they were slaughtered, they were gone. Next, they had to search for ore and mine it to earn team points. During the cleanup of the energy planet, both the Chenyu and Mengjia fleets had explored it. Besides the iron ore near the underground palace, the planet only had the initial energy mine. If they tried to mine, the teams would inevitably collide. This year's Mecha department didn't cooperate with other departments, so each team had the same number of energy cards and no Mecha repair technicians. After days of battling the alien beasts, most of the students' mechas were in tatters, especially the level 3 Mecha technicians. Surprisingly, the graduation tour group actually acted like they were on a tour. For the first few days, they just wandered around, engaging level 2 and 3 alien beasts and fleeing when they encountered level 4 ones, even though they were outnumbered. However, they were lucky enough to be the first to find an energy mine. They didn't rush to dig the ore, but instead dismounted from their mechas and held a meeting. The small satellite surveillance camera didn't have a recording function, so no one could hear what the tour group members were discussing. But from their constant gestures toward the energy mine, Lin Miaomiao could probably guess what they were discussing. Liu Gaoyer, who always focused on eating, couldn't guess what they were talking about, and just kept cursing, "These idiots, they've been pointing fingers at the energy mine for a long time. They might as well dig more mines with this time, that's only if they can swallow it." Yuzixin glanced at the other screens, and there are other teams approaching. By then, their group of level 3 Mecha Masters won't be able to beat the other teams, but the energy mine is so big, won't it be the same if we dig together? Gaoyer, you're so naive, Yuzixin said in amazement. This is a competition, not mining. If we dig together, what if this level 3 team digs more than them? But doesn't this competition discourage attacking other teams? It seems that the side that attacks first will lose points regardless of winning or losing, Liu Gaoyer said unconvinced. Are they not afraid of being deducted points? Indeed, Fang Licken smiled. It's not like you'll lose the qualification for attacking first. It's just a few dozen points deducted. You can make up for it by digging more energy mines. Liu Gaoyer was a little disappointed. Could it be that the first team to find the energy mine had just given up? Just then, the tour group concluded their meeting, but they didn't leave. Instead, one member stood guard while the other 9 began collecting energy ore. Great. They're not leaving, Liu Gaoyer said excitedly. Does this mean they're ready to challenge the other teams? Probably, Lin Miaomiao replied nonchalantly. If that were the case, then this team wouldn't be worth paying attention to. Choosing a head-on confrontation despite such a significant difference in strength was foolhardy. But then again, mechas were supposed to charge forward. Tactics were the concern of Star Wars Command. Even if they lost, they wouldn't be considered heroic mechas. The second team to arrive at the energy mine was a squad called Fishin. Seeing the tour group's mechas busy mining, they naturally understood that there was something valuable there and surrounded them without further ado. The tour group sentry immediately warned their teammates. The 9 mechas currently mining also gathered around, forming a standoff with Fei Tian at the entrance they had dug. A battle erupted, with the tour group's 10 mechas launching the first attack, wielding giant swords and blades, charging at Fei Tian's mechas. The Fei Tian team, still ready to make some threats, was forced to scatter. After dodging the initial wave of attacks, the Fei Tian team organized a counterattack, only to discover that the group had vanished. The Fei Tian team members asked, "What happened to the promised resistance? These people are just giving up like that." The representatives in the live studio were speechless. They had thought they were finally about to witness a decisive battle, only to find it was over before it even began. The tour group started the fight, but then didn't finish it. They lost dozens of points for nothing, Liu Gaoyer grumbled. Wouldn't it have been better if they hadn't fought at all? Idiot, how did they fight? Yuzixin rolled his eyes. They just walked away with their weapons drawn. How can that be considered a fight? That made sense. Liu Gaoyer frowned, deciding to keep quiet for now. She didn't want to be constantly called stupid and embarrassed, and she didn't want to put herself in a bad mood again. After the accident, the members of the flying squad took over the mining work, while the tour group, after running some distance, resumed their leisurely exploration, unfazed by the loss of the energy mine. Over the next 2 days, other teams also found the energy mine. Several teams engaged in several skirmishes, and some were already suffering from calamities. Each team was so busy guarding against sneak attacks that no one had time to mine. However, the tour group, after a few days of leisurely wandering, stumbled upon the iron mine on the cliffside and set up camp there. While the tour group worked diligently as miners, the other 9 teams each secured a small plot of land around the energy mine, guarding against surprise attacks from other teams while exploiting every opportunity to mine. They dug several paths through the entire mine. On the 10th day of the competition, they were all busy mining, seemingly peaceful, as if they had tacitly agreed that mining would be the final word. Unfortunately, not all teams could afford to settle down. On the 12th day, a team called Overlord, not finding much ore, resorted to a scattered raid, relying on their 6 level 4 mechas, successfully eliminating a dozen or so mechas. The Overlord team, jubilant at their achievement, was unaware that their actions had incurred public wrath. The 8 ambushed teams joined forces and quickly eliminated them. Thus, on the 12th day, the strongest Overlord team was the first to be eliminated, while the weakest tour group remained unscathed, diligently working in the iron mine. It is worth mentioning that when the Overlord squad returned to the ship, Yuzixin went to greet them under the pretext of winning them over. According to him, "We are graduates of the previous class. We don't know how the previous recruitment representatives completed their tasks. It is not shameful to go and greet the younger students." These words made the representatives of other fleets very angry, but they did not dare to follow suit. They had the status of seniors, so how could they greet a few students? If they did that, even if they recruited them into the fleet, they might still be proud of themselves. Chapter 548 The Correct Way to Increase Favorability. Yuzixin had been so high-spirited when he went to the ship's gate, but he returned feeling rather crestfallen. The unfamiliar fleet representatives glared at him with envy, but those who knew him well, like Lin Miaomiao, realized their attempt to improve his reputation had failed. With such a good opportunity and such a powerful identity, how could he have failed? Lin Miaomiao was baffled, but seeing the envy around her, she couldn't bring herself to ask, so she held it in until lunchtime. At lunchtime, the 6 of them got their meal and found an empty table in the corner of the restaurant. As soon as they started eating, Liu Cao couldn't help asking, "Axon, how was the result when you went to pick someone up just now? You came back quite quickly, didn't you get your favorability?" Yuzixin stuffed rice into his mouth and swallowed it without chewing. After a long while, he said dejectedly, "I messed it up." No way, how could it be messed up?" Liu Cao frowned. "The time, place and people are alright, but it still hasn't worked out. You are too lame. If you can, go later." Yuzixin rolled his eyes at her. "I'll go if I want to." Liu Cao snorted, "I'm sure I can do better than you. Are you overthinking it?" That's what happened to the Overlord. Who would dare to act rashly? It's unlikely that another team will be eliminated so soon. Jin Hao sighed as he picked at the food in his bowl. There are still a few days left. I really don't want to eat such food. Ever since he became the nominal general manager of the Lin family hotel, he rarely ate meals cooked by intelligent robots. This time, he ate them for more than a week and was about to vomit. After reluctantly eating a bite of carrot, Jin Hao said with a smile, "Miaomiao, when are we going to go out for a picnic? You only know how to eat. Aren't you afraid of eating like a pig?" Liu Cao muttered softly. Jin Hao's ears twitched, and he looked up at her. "What did you say?" "Haha, nothing." Liu Cao laughed dryly. It was fine to say bad things about him in private, but it was not a good idea to say it to his face. To avoid being scolded, she could only cover up and say, "I mean, Teacher Jin seems to be getting more and more handsome." Praising his handsomeness was something to be happy about. Although Jin Hao didn't believe it, he decided to let it go. He turned around and repeated the question to Lin Miaomiao. Unfortunately, his request was coldly and ruthlessly rejected. "The competitions these past few days are crucial. I think we should watch more. The later we get, the more we can tell about the player's character. So I think we shouldn't leave the ship for the next few days." Jin Hao was disappointed. He tried to find a reason to convince Lin Miaomiao, "It doesn't matter whether you watch the top 100 or not. There are so many fleets recruiting this year. 7 or 8 of the top 10 have already joined. I'm sure all these talented people have been snatched up by the big fleets." "Nonsense," Lin Miaomiao and the other 4 retorted in unison. "We still chose Shenyu." Jin Hao was speechless. These self-righteous people were actually his students. Was there something wrong? Okay, he had to admit that among last year's batch of students, Lin Miaomiao and the other 4 were indeed relatively outstanding, especially Zhu Chen, who had been the top student in his grade for 4 years. And Lin Miaomiao, who had successfully advanced to level 4 at the age of 18. But even so, They should be more humble. A mecha pilot who likes to show off is not a good mecha pilot. After a few silent complaints, Jin Hao gave up his plan to go out for a picnic. The cook refused to cooperate, and even his foodie heart was no use. By the afternoon, the 8 teams at the energy mine had indeed remained peaceful, each busy mining. However, due to their joint efforts to eliminate the Overlord team that morning, some teams began to stir. It was unknown how they had connected, but within an hour, the Lucian team had formed an alliance with the Elf team. While the other teams were preparing dinner, the 2 of them wiped out the perfect team. Someone's back again. I'll go this time, Liu Kaoyer said excitedly, running out. Yu Zixin didn't try to stop her, but after she left, he fidgeted a little, as if he wanted to follow but was too embarrassed to. If you want to follow, then follow. Lin Miaomiao couldn't bear it any longer. Let's go and see together. Lin Miaomiao's suggestion was unanimous, and even Jin Hao, curious, wanted to join in the fun. By the time they reached the ship's gate, Liu Kaoyer had already struck up a conversation with the distraught perfect team. They didn't know why, but they all felt something was off about the perfect team's expressions. After carefully listening to the conversation between Liu Kaoyer and the perfect team, Lin Miaomiao felt embarrassed. It turned out that Liu Dafudi was so nervous that he immediately said, "Congratulations, your competition is finally over." The teams that finished their competition today had simply left in dismay. Congratulating them with a smile on their faces was simply asking for trouble. Fortunately, the perfect team was quite popular. Although their expressions were a little grim, they still politely thanked them. "Thank you for your concern, Senior." Liu Kaoyer smiled brightly. "You're welcome. I just watched your competition and thought you performed very well, so I came to greet you triumphantly." The captain of the perfect team twitched his lips. After they were eliminated, they had asked the teacher and learned that, besides the Overlord team, they were the only ones eliminated. As the second to last team to be eliminated, how could they be considered a triumphant return? Was this intentional sarcasm? But judging by Liu Kaoyer's expression, the sincere praise seemed undeniable. He couldn't help but smile wryly and continue to thank them. Afterwards, Liu Kaoyer kept praising the perfect team for their bravery, hard work and dedication. She almost praised them like flowers, but she didn't notice that the smiles on the faces of the members of the perfect team were becoming more and more forced. Hiding in the corner, listening to Lin Miaomiao, the other 5 were about to burst their bellies with laughter. Feng Licken felt that if they continued like this, the members of the perfect team would be scared away, so she decided to go out and save some impression points. After adjusting their facial expressions, everyone except Lin Miaomiao put on a polite smile. The 5 of them walked out from the corner at a leisurely pace, and just happened to meet the perfect team and Liu Kaoyer who were walking over. "Hey, why are you here too?" Liu Kaoyer blurted out. "The rest of the teams were mining, and we felt bored, so we came out to relax. We didn't expect to meet you guys," Feng Licken said with a gentle smile. The members of the perfect team were all furious. They had never heard of anyone strolling toward the ship's entrance. They were just complaining about their seniors, which seemed inappropriate. Before they could dwell on it for too long, Feng Licken spoke again, this time addressing the members of the perfect team. "Dear juniors, thank you for your hard work during this period. You all performed very well, but it's a pity that you had to leave early. However, the most important thing about the competition is participation. Now that it's over, go back and rest up early. Go to the cafeteria to eat something delicious to make up for your hard work." The captain of the perfect team finally smiled happily. "Thank you, seniors." Chapter 549 The Charm of Biscuits. After parting ways with the 10 perfect team, Lin Miaomiao and the others didn't return to the monitoring room. Their constant comings and goings there weren't very good for the environment. With only half an hour until dinner time, they decided to go to the restaurant. When they arrived, they found the Overlord team members already waiting for their meal. The Overlord squad consisted of male students, so Yu Zixin walked over nonchalantly. "Juniors, you come to the restaurant so early, are you hungry?" A tall and thin young man with dark skin and a crew cut answered. "Yeah, it took me a while to wash up after I came back, which delayed my lunch, so I came early for dinner and waited." Yu Zixin nodded. "Of course we have to come early and wait. Anyway, you don't have anything to do after the competition. It's not bad to sit here and chat and keep in touch. After all, we participated in the wilderness survival competition together." "That's right, senior," the tall and thin young man agreed dryly, and then asked, Seniors, you come so early too. Didn't you have enough for lunch? Yeah, Yuzixin sighed. The food cooked by the robots tastes so bad. I can't eat much, so I get hungry faster. The tall and thin young man was speechless. No matter how bad the food cooked by the robots tasted, it was better than what they had eaten in the past 10 days. You know, they didn't even bring a pot, and they could only eat barbecue every day, and the meat was half-cooked and not salty. There was no other way. The time to prepare for this wilderness survival competition was so short that they completely forgot to prepare a stove or seasonings. The little salt they had was a female student's extra share. They could have made it to lunch, but having been out in the open for days, their personal hygiene had been rather sloppy. Even with clothes, showering was difficult. Even with the perpetually spring-like weather here, after 10 days, they were still filthy. Eating in the dining hall amidst the stench would probably suffocate many recruiting representatives. Being eliminated first would be embarrassing enough, but if the stench also irritated the representatives, what would happen if no fleet accepted them when they applied? So, even though their stomachs were rumbling with hunger, they had no choice but to return to the dorms to clean themselves up. By the time they had washed themselves, they realized mealtime was over. But there was no need to talk about such embarrassing things, the tall, thin young man thought to himself, and said to Yuzixin perfunctorily, "Senior, you're right." He couldn't continue, and Yuzixin was frustrated. This was just like that, he ran out of words in the middle of a conversation. Did the younger students all believe in silence? Just as he was considering whether to retreat, Lin Miaomiao and the others came over. Liu Kaier, holding a few disposable lunchboxes, said to the members of the Overlord squad with a smile, "It's still a while before dinner. Why don't you guys eat something to fill your stomachs?" Without waiting for them to refuse, she put the food on the table and pulled Yuzixin away. "Hey, didn't you say there was nothing to eat?" Yuzixin was dissatisfied. Just now, he was hungry and asked Liu Kaier for food, but there was not even a biscuit. She even asked him to drink nutrient solution. Now, someone else got it. Liu Kaier rolled her eyes at him. "I don't have any." These were taken out by Miaomiao. Yuzixin was frustrated. Miaomiao hadn't said a word when he asked, so he assumed she didn't have any, but the result was so cruel. He secretly glanced back and saw that the Overlord squad had opened their lunchboxes, revealing neatly arranged hollow egg pastries. He was immediately even more frustrated. "I want some too." "Keep your voice down, it's not like you haven't eaten before. Don't embarrass yourself in front of the younger students." Liu Kaier dragged him to the table in the corner. "Let me go." Yuzixin struggled to regain his freedom, but failed to break free, and his mood became even worse. "You learned martial arts but it's useless. You actually bully your companions like this, huh?" Liu Kaier didn't bother to care about his complaints. She dragged him to a dining table far away from the Overlord squad and let him go. She stretched out her hand to Lin Miaomiao with a smile in her eyes. "Miaomiao, where's my biscuits? We agreed that you would give me one if you dragged this embarrassing guy back." Lin Miaomiao took out a box of biscuits and handed it to her. Liu Kaier had just taken it in her hand, and it was snatched away in the blink of an eye. "Yuzixin, give it back to me," Liu Kaier roared, trying to snatch the cookies back, but Zuchen stopped her. "You got this box of cookies because of Azin, so you have to give him half." Yuzixin, who had snatched the cookies, took out a small bowl and poured out most of them before returning the remaining half to her. "Here, this is yours." You're not given half." "Yuzixin, don't go too far." Liu Kaier was on the verge of tears. How could such a bandit exist? She had thought Zuchen was a modest gentleman, but now she knew this couple wasn't a good person. To prevent the remaining cookies from being snatched away by others, Liu Kaier decided to put them away and eat them in her room that night. A flicker of disappointment crossed Jinhao's eyes. The Overlord squad, having filled their stomachs with snacks, looked much calmer. When they met him at the window after dinner, he offered to let them get their food first. Lin Miaomiao and the others were not shy and naturally shook their heads, saying no. "You guys haven't eaten well in over 10 days, so why don't you go ahead and eat first? There aren't that many people here, so there's no need to queue." The members of the Overlord squad thought it made sense, so they stopped pushing and went back to their seats. By the time Lin Miaomiao and the others had finished, the members of the Perfect Squad and the scattered members of the other teams who had been eliminated had arrived at the cafeteria. Lin Miaomiao returned to the corner with her tray, but didn't rush to eat. Instead, she surveyed the eliminated students, noticing that most of them were gloomy. It looks like they've been hit hard. They all have stern faces, not even the slightest hint of a smile, Yuzixin commented, shaking his head. They're just the kind of guys who can't stand losing, Jin Hao teased him. Actually, I think they performed quite well. If you were them, you'd probably be in tears a long time ago. Teacher Jin, don't talk nonsense. You're smearing my reputation. Yuzixin was very upset. Liu Kai'er grinned. She felt that she had found a good opportunity for revenge, so she rushed to join in. Teacher Jin is so mean. What nonsense are you talking about? Don't you know that the truth can only be buried in your heart and cannot be spoken out? Aren't you afraid of revenge from the mistress? Yuzixin slammed the table in protest. Kai'er, how can you talk like that? Ashin is my boyfriend and fiancé. Don't always call him a mistress, such an ugly word, but you are not engaged yet, Liu Kai'er reminded slowly. Lauda and Miaomiao are not engaged either. Do you dare to call Lauda Miaomiao's mistress? Liu Kai'er certainly didn't dare, but she would not admit it easily, so she pretended to be mature and said, Axin, you are too ignorant. They have already met the parents, and the elders have tacitly agreed. That word is not appropriate at all, Yuzixin chuckled, whatever you say is what it is. Chapter 550, Reviewing Graduate Files. The 2-week-long wilderness survival competition finally concluded, with a brutal result. Only 4 teams, totaling 25 individuals, emerged victorious, 10 of whom were from the tour group. This meant the weakest teams emerged victorious. After the competition, the more survivors a team had, the more bonus points they earned. The 3 teams near the energy mine were unaware that another team hadn't been eliminated until they were already back on the dawn. The results were announced the day after their return trip, and in a surprising upset, the most unlikely team, the graduation tour group, emerged victorious. While iron ore isn't as valuable as energy ore, and the points awarded were significantly lower, they had unearthed a significant amount, didn't actively attack their competitors, and didn't incur any penalty points. Combined with the bonus points for remaining alive, they secured first place. After the announcement, the other teams looked devastated, as if the sky was falling. Yuzixin found this amusing and sat in the restaurant again, wanting to admire their dejected and unwilling state up close. Liu Kai'er then called him out on it, lunatic. Losing to the weakest team was already pathetic enough, but then they had to face someone who wanted to rub salt in their wounds. If he'd made his intentions known, he'd probably have a lot of people trying to get him into trouble. Yuzixin scoffed at her words, am I that stupid? I'm just watching the fun, so I know what I'm doing. That being said, Lin Miaomiao and the others worried that he might be too outspoken, so they sat with him in the restaurant and watched the fun unfold for a while. After returning to the Maryland 2nd Military Academy, the cadets had all gone home for the holidays. Lin Miaomiao and the others wanted to go back, but unfortunately, they didn't have the time. Watching the tryouts was just one way to get to know the graduating class, and it wasn't a particularly important way. Only the archives could better demonstrate their abilities. So, they would spend the next few days in the archives. At this moment, facing the thousands of thick files, Fang Licken couldn't help but frown. So many? How long do I have to wait to see them? Although they arrived at the school early, Fang Dongqing hadn't allowed them to look through the files before the competition, saying he was afraid they'd form fixed opinions about the students. Files record their biography, but they can't fully reflect a person's character and abilities. Some may not perform well academically, but possess other strengths. This requires careful observation during the competition. Although the archives were open to the fleet representatives, not all of them took them seriously. Some believed in what they saw, while others believed in speaking with their fists, had already made up their minds, and didn't waste time looking through the files. For example, right now, out of over 100 fleet representatives, fewer than 40 had arrived, and only about 10 had even carefully examined the files. The large fleets recruited few soldiers and focused solely on 4th-level mecha technicians. Even for the command and armor repair departments, they only recruited the top 10 in their year, so naturally, they didn't need to review the student files. As for card makers, those who reached level 3 rarely joined the military, instead seeking apprenticeships to continue their card-making studies. Only those at level 1 or 2 were willing to join the military, as they couldn't find good mentors. If they wanted to improve, they had to join the fleet, where they had made an high-level card makers to guide them. Yuzixin and Liu Kai'er volunteered to review the mecha cadets' files. Feng Likin went to review the armor cadet's files. Lin Miaomiao, after some thought, handed the Star Wars Command cadet's files to Zhu Chen, taking charge of the card-making department. Reviewing the files was a tedious task. Yu Zixin was excited when he accepted the assignment, but after less than an hour, he couldn't handle it anymore. He ran over to Zhu Chen and asked curiously, "Are we recruiting Star Wars Command cadets this time too? We've negotiated peace with the Empire, so we don't need Star Wars commanders, do we? Star Wars commanders command battles between warships and are largely useless in peacetime. Furthermore, Shen Yu only had 2 or 3 warships, so recruiting Star Wars commanders didn't seem to make much sense." Zhu Chen replied casually, without even looking up, "Just because they're not needed now doesn't mean they won't be needed in the future. The Empire and the Federation had negotiated countless times. When at peace, they visited each other, traded, and were as close as family. Unfortunately, the peace never lasted long. As long as the villains weren't eliminated, they'd always be the catalyst for war. As for the shortage of warships, why not recruit a few people back home and train them? After a few years, once commanders were trained and the fleet had increased, they could simply deploy them to battle." Considering the limited number of Shen Yu warships, Gu Qingheng had only requested 5 Star Wars Command cadets when he assigned them the task. There were only 2 or 3 schools in the Federation offering Star Wars Command courses, and the 2nd Military Academy had the strongest faculty, so they decided to recruit all of them there. Zhu Chen was confident he could recruit 5 outstanding Star Wars Command cadets. From what he'd learned, aside from the auxiliary fleets and the last few fleets, the other fleets were already saturated with Star Wars Command cadets. Even if they did recruit, they'd have to recruit a few backups. After graduating from the command department and joining the fleet, cadets are no longer ordinary soldiers. Instead, they are awarded low-ranking military ranks, putting them on par with squad leaders like Liu Yifei. The most outstanding cadets receive even higher ranks. It's better to serve as a backup than to join a smaller fleet with fewer obstacles, where they can showcase their talents. As Miaomiao once said, "It's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix." Shen Yu now lacks a Star Wars commander, and her progress is widely witnessed by the people of the Federation. Surely, some outstanding cadet would be willing to take a chance. Yu Zixin suddenly realized why he hadn't thought of this. Ashen is amazing, but why are there so few people in the Star Wars Command Department? Looking at the files here, there aren't even 100 of them, are there? While in school, Yu Zixin rarely paid attention to the affairs of other departments besides his own. It was only now that he realized how few cadets there were in the command department. Zhu Chen has always been concerned about these things, so he was not surprised that there were only so few people. Instead, he told him, "Star Wars commanders all have the talent to be mecha pilots, but those with the talent of mecha pilots rarely have the ability to command warships. There are not many such people in the entire Federation. Fortunately, there are not many, otherwise there would be too many commanders with no work to do, and they would steal our jobs from mecha pilots," Yu Zixin muttered softly. "Ah Zin, can you stop clinging and come back to check the files quickly? It's too slow to be alone," Liu Kaoyer shouted. "We are all in the same room, are you so inseparable?" Yu Zixin's face flushed instantly. "Woman, you fell asleep while checking the files just now, and I was too lazy to say a few words, but you just wouldn't give in." End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.